News, traffic, and weather station.
It's 9 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top story this hour. The West Davis Highway's been open for just over a year now, and officials with the Utah Department of Transportation are already working on the next expansion.
We're looking at basically extending the road 2.5 miles to the north. It would be the same thing as what West Davis is like right now. So it would be 4 lanes, so 2 lanes going northbound and then 2 lanes going southbound.
UDOT spokesperson Mitch Shaw says the expansion would connect with 1800 North and West Point and includes new pedestrian trails and bridges for improvement in all forms of travel. Construction is expected to begin next year. The North Ogden Divide was closed overnight because of rock slides. The Weber County Roads Department posted pictures of the rock slides on Facebook. The road reopened this morning. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. One of the largest COVID-19 fraud cases in the country is back in court. ABC's Dave Packer reports.
Amy Bach, founder of Feeding Our Future, facing federal fraud and bribery charges in a $250 million scheme to exploit pandemic food aid. Prosecutors say her nonprofit faked feeding thousands of kids, pocketing government funds. Bach's attorney arguing she was tricked by those around her. Extra security measures are in place after an earlier trial saw a failed attempt to bribe a juror with a bag filled with $120,000 in cash. The trial expected to last 6 weeks. Dave Packer, ABC News.
Your money at this moment, the Dow is down, but now only 0.2%, down 86 points to 44,457. That's a bit of a rebound from earlier this morning. Coming up, we still have a crash on Bangalore Highway, plus incredibly warm temperatures. Traffic and weather together. Coming up next, KSL News Time 9:01.
Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
If you've ever set New Year's resolutions before, you know how difficult it is to follow through because you have to wait to see the results. What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and in honor of your New Year, New You resolutions, Any Hour Services is having our New Year, New System sale. From now until the end of February, Any Hour Services will give you $2,025 off a new furnace and air conditioner. And you don't have to wait to save the money. You get $2,025 off at the time of purchase. The only thing you have to do to qualify for our New Year, New System sale is call Any Hour Services and schedule a free estimate. When you call, there's no obligation to buy. Just schedule a time to meet that works best for you. Let me say that again. From now until the end of February, when you have Any Hour Services install a new furnace and air conditioner, we'll give you $2,025 off. Call Any Hour Services right now and schedule a free estimate. 801-443-7400. You can Google Any Hour Services. You can even schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
At Fisher Investments, we may seem like other money managers, but we're different.
What makes you so different than the rest of us?
We ensure clients receive unparalleled service at every step of the relationship.
Tell me more.
Our investment counselors focus on service over sales, prioritizing clients' needs.
How do you make money?
We don't sell any commission-based products. We have a simple management fee based on the value of our client's portfolio. So we do better when our clients do better.
What about client portfolios?
We get to know each client, their finances, family, health, lifestyle, and more, and then we tailor a portfolio based on their specific goals and needs.
Your clients really come first then, huh?
Yes, we make them a top priority. Our goal is helping them achieve a comfortable retirement.
Wow, maybe we are different.
At Fisher Investments, we're clearly different. Learn more at fisherinvestments.com.
Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
There she is, founder and CEO. High five. Yeah.
Dave can't stop celebrating with every business owner in town.
All right, Baker Man, high five.
He's sharing the excitement of big savings with the Comcast Business 5-year price lock guarantee.
Woo, up top, bike shop.
Yeah. It's 5 years of gig speed internet.
Quick, high five.
5 years of advanced security.
5 years.
And 5 years of a great rate that won't change.
Yeah, law partners. Chamberlain, Messelthorpe, Dubois.
All from the company with 99.9% network reliability. Switch today and get the 5-year price lock guarantee.
5 years.
It's back, but only for a limited time.
Woo.
Powering 5 years of savings, powering possibilities. Comcast Business.
Can't forget you, voiceover guy.
Ah, thanks, Dave.
High five.
Ends 3/9/25. Guaranteed rate applies to monthly service charge for new customers on qualifying internet bundle, excluding taxes and fees. Other restrictions apply.
Traffic and weather together now, brought to you by Mountain America's limited time balance transfer bonus. Let's check in with Heather Kelly.
We've got a new crash in Utah County. This is northbound I-15 just before Center Street in Provo. It was over on the left shoulder. It looks like they're just pulling away now, but there was never enough traffic to cause any type of delay in the area to begin with. Where you do have the big delays is Bangerter Highway southbound between California Avenue and just past the 201 freeway. It's due to a crash blocking the right lane. Hopefully that's just about to be cleared. Looking for the perfect suit for that special occasion? Mr. Mac has the best suit selection for any occasion. And get winter clearance pricing today. Visit their 9 convenient locations or MrMac.com. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
Well, today will be cloudy and breezy with highs up to the 60s. Dare I say jacket weather in February, not coat weather? Right now, it's mostly cloudy and 57 degrees. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Dave and Dujanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories. On KSL News Radio, Dave and Dujanovic, special coverage of the top national story.
The word of the day is paused. Mexico's president announcing just moments ago that the tariffs against Mexico that were announced by President Trump over the weekend are on pause for at least a month after they reached a deal to secure the border. Mexico's northern border, our southern border.
And one of those details is that Mexico has agreed to send 10,000 troops to the border. And that was at the top of the Trump demand list. Is this just the art of the deal? Was this always the plan? Was to threaten the tariffs, or is there genuinely a belief that we've got to start taxing, putting all these tariffs on all of our allies?
I think what President Trump saw was the fallout from the American people over the weekend. There were some surveys that have been done about how people feel about the tariffs, and generally people don't like them. Not a lot of people want to pay more for stuff, right? We've spent 4 years paying more for stuff and complaining about it. And then the New York Times reports that the tariffs generally cost about $830 more a year per household. In addition, you got to look at the potential for the cost of a car to go up. CBS estimated that would cost about an extra $3,000 for a new car. And then you look at the price of housing already out of control for so many American families can't get into a home. A third of our lumber used in the United States is brought in from Canada each year. So if you're going to impose a tariff on lumber, what happens to the price of housing? And when you add that all up, I think it's going to be more than $830 a year per household. I guess it depends on if you're buying more than just like avocados and berries. If you're buying big ticket items, it could be a lot more. People don't like it, Dave.
We don't like paying more. I think it's because we're addicted to imports, and we have been addicted to imports for a very long time. I guess maybe I'm old enough to remember Made in the USA. That was like a pitch, because largely you looked at all the goods and the services that were being imported now. It was going overseas, and then we were bringing it in because it was cheaper. And in many ways, it's unsustainable, because all of a sudden, when you have different countries that are paying a fraction of the cost for manufacturing, how do we even compete here in America? And we haven't for a long time.
Well, I was watching CNN. His senior data reporter, Harry Enton, was analyzing the data on how Americans feel about it. And I was like, we got to listen to this together.
I simply put, I don't get it. Because if we take a look here, Trump tariffs on Canada, China, and Mexico, the support is 38%. Now, you don't have to be a mathematical genius to figure out that the 51% opposed is higher than the 38% support. Americans are saying no, no, no when it comes to these Trump tariffs. There have been some things that Trump has perhaps done in his early days that are popular. I've pointed those out. But this, my dear friend, is not popular at all. I've looked at a bunch of polling data, some with vague polling language, some with more specifics like this one. And in every single one, the plurality or majority opposed the Trump tariffs. and just this tiny bit right here, 38% south to 40% support him.
When I heard him say that, I laughed out loud because I thought it was hilarious where he's trying to make the pitch that Americans hate the idea of tariffs. Look how wildly unpopular they are. This was not a surprise. This should not be a surprise to anybody because Trump, every single time I heard him on the campaign trail, was talking about he's going to impose tariffs. He loves tariffs. You're going to love tariffs. Everyone's going to love tariffs.
To me, the most beautiful word in the dictionary today is the word tariff. It's more beautiful than love. It's more beautiful than anything. It's the most beautiful word. This country can become rich with the proper use of tariffs.
So how can we be surprised that, within the first couple of weeks that Trump is pushing tariffs in a big way? He's talked about tariffs. So, yeah, we don't like paying for things. Were we even paying attention during the campaign season, though?
I would assume because he won.
He won.
He won. So,
no one can tell me that they're surprised by this. This isn't a bait and switch. Trump talked about tariffs from the get-go.
Robert Spendlove, senior economist with Zions Bank. Good morning, Robert.
Good morning.
So we have our first, what seems to be at least a temporary about face by the president, backing down at least for 30 days on the imposition of tariffs against Mexico. Were you surprised by that?
This is why Trump loves tariffs, because he uses them as a way to negotiate. And he's shown that he's willing to impose dramatic tariffs on our closest trade partners unless they are willing to negotiate with him on his priorities. And so he will continue to be using this. It surprises me how quickly they came to an agreement, but I'm sure he's talking with Trudeau right now about how they can work with Canada as well.
That's what stood out to me, Robert, is how quickly these nations have caved, quite frankly. We saw it happen similarly in Colombia when Trump was trying to deport migrants and Colombia's like, no, we're not going to accept your planes. And then Trump's like, massive tariffs, 25%, 50% by the end of the week. And then Colombia's like, never mind, you can land your planes. Like, to your point, I mean, we are seeing an abrupt about face by these nations.
Well, and there's two forms of power that America has. There's hard power and there's soft power. And what we've found over the past several decades is it's really hard to use that. The hard power, of course, is, guns and tanks and ships and planes. And do we want to use that hard power to try to enforce U.S. interests? Or Trump has shown its willingness to use much more of this soft power to try to get, to accomplish their objectives. And so it is kind of throwing a lot of economic theory on its head. But just like you said earlier, the American people knew that this is what Trump was going to do, and he still won.
Robert Spendlove with Zions Bank, he's a senior economist. We're talking to him about the tariffs that President Trump announced on Saturday. And if you're just joining us moments ago, the president of Mexico announcing, I believe it was on X, that they have reached a deal to not impose the 25% tariff, at least for 30 days. In exchange, it sounds like Mexico is going to send 10,000 troops to their northern border, which is our southern border. And one of the things that I've heard the president say is he wants to stop the flow of fentanyl over the border. I understood that more with the southern border, Robert, than I did with the Canadian border, because my understanding is that there isn't a lot of fentanyl flowing over the Canadian border. But boy, Canada was sure swift to react. They were coming out, I think it was late Saturday, I saw them. They were going to start pulling American-made alcohol from shelves in Canada. There was booze during the national anthem at one of the hockey games over the weekend. And then on top of that, here's what the British Columbia's premier said about the tariffs and how they would react in Canada.
Effective today, I have directed BC liquor sales to immediately stop buying American liquor from red states. Liquor store employees will be removing the most popular of these brands from government store shelves.
Targeting Republican states that export liquor to Canada. Did you think that was strategic on the part of Canadians?
Yeah, I think it was. And they're specifically going after products made in Republican states. They're going after products made in Florida, in the Carolinas, in those areas where it could have a direct political impact on supporters of Donald Trump. And so it's a very smart way to respond to the tariffs.
But is this a game that you want to start playing, the tit for tat between America and Canada? I mean, our GDP compared to Canada's is 100-fold. I mean, you can't even compare when we're talking about real economic impact.
Yeah, and if you go back to that, the hard power, if you remember back with the Soviet Union in the 1980s, the idea of mutually assured destruction. Do you really want to play this game where, yes, both economies of the United States and Canada could suffer in a worst-case scenario, but Canada would suffer more than the United States. And so you have to be really careful how you play these games in a trade war.
Rob, obviously the storyline has changed significantly since we've taken over the microphone, and Mexico's president has announced that at least the pause in Mexico on the tariffs is happening there. But ultimately, as an economist, how did you see these tariffs potentially impacting Utah families financially?
Well, and this is a really interesting example of testing our long-held economic theory. The long-held economic theory, the consensus among economists, is that tariffs and reducing free trade will hurt the economy. It will hurt consumers. It will cause prices to go up, cause price shocks. It'll cause shortages in especially those products, a lot of the products that we love. Like avocados from Mexico, or maple syrup, or even more important, lumber from Canada. And the Trump administration is throwing a lot of those theories into a real-world test. One of the senior Trump advisors just wrote a piece in November calling, a user's guide to restructuring the global trading system. That's their goal. They want to restructure the entire global trading system. And they're saying this is necessary and it's worth it to accomplish these. And so, yes, there will be direct impacts on Utah consumers, especially for those products that we import. And there will be reciprocal impacts on the items that we export if there's those retaliatory tariffs. And so it could cause that demand to go down. But at least in the idea of the Trump administration, it's worth it to restructure the trading system.
I do look at the tariffs, and obviously none of us want to pay more for anything, right? I think we truly are addicted to imports. But when I look at what's going on across the world, because we've become such a global economy, how do we compete here in America when it comes to manufacturing? I just looked at an Associated Press article, and it was talking about a third of Mexico is paying $14 as a minimum wage a day. $14 a day. How do you compete with a country that can pay $14 a day for labor, and we're paying $14 to $20 an hour here in America?
Yeah, the only way they can do that is by shifting those costs onto those exporting countries, and to increase the relative cost of those goods coming into America. And Trump has said this often. He said this in Davos. He said this over the weekend. He said, if you're producing a product and importing it into, or if it's being imported into America, it will be more expensive. And he said the way to get a cheaper product or a lower price is produce it in America. So, and there's two sides of this equation, and that the other side is being left out often, which is on one side, they're making our products that are imported into America more expensive. But then on the other side, their goal is to dramatically lower corporate income taxes, dramatically reduce government regulations, and dramatically reduce government spending and government debt. And they say this is the only way to fix these long-term problems.
Well, we appreciate you taking the time to join us. Robert Spenlove is a senior economist with Zions Bank. Thanks, Robert.
It's good to spend that much time on this developing story. We don't know what's going to happen once he meets with the Prime Minister of Canada, although when I woke up this morning and I saw that he was slated to meet with both the President of Mexico and the Prime Minister of Canada, it made me think that perhaps the President was going in the direction of at least pausing the tariffs for now. And that appears to what has happened with Mexico. And again, that meeting with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau of Canada is supposed to happen as well today. I thought the rollout of this and the announcement on Saturday, even though, to your point, Dave, that is right, he's talked about it a lot on the campaign trail. The announcement of it on Saturday and that it would not take effect until Tuesday was not that surprising to me, because I thought what that gave the president a chance to do is kind of get his finger on the pulse of what Americans are saying about this and how they were reacting. How was the stock market going to react to it? Futures this morning were way down. I woke up to, I think the Dow was down 655 points well before the opening bell. And a lot of businesses were pushing back. American businesses were pushing back on this because they knew that there was going to be, you can call it retaliatory, but there were going to be tariffs implemented or action taken by Canada and Mexico. So he bought himself some time to see how Americans were reacting, how the stock market was reacting, how these countries were reacting, and how the world was reacting. As well, the world global markets were taking a dive this morning and reacting to this. And then by not implementing it until Tuesday, he gave himself Monday to meet with both of these heads of state. And here we are.
Yeah, and we're starting to see, obviously, that some of this is just a negotiation tactic, right? That maybe there was never a practical way to impose a 25 or a 50% tariff on these things, that just the threat was enough to bring some of these negotiations to Trump's table. So I think, though, as we're looking at it, tariffs, sure, they're unpopular because we just don't want to pay more for stuff. But we have to ask ourselves, quite frankly, is it sustainable? And the example I can't help but think about is last summer we were talking about the United Auto Workers. Mm-hmm. They were on strike. They were demanding massive pay increases from 20 to 30% more in the pay increase. So now if you're paying $32 an hour for a car manufacturer in Michigan, or you can get it for a fraction of the cost by building a factory in Mexico, why in the world would you ever have a factory in America if you're paying 3 or 4 times more for labor? It just doesn't make any sense. So you have to be able to say, okay, we've got to balance this out in some way. We've got to make sure that there are fair trade practices. So when I look at tariffs, because President Trump did this in his first term, a major car manufacturer wanted to do that exact same thing, move a huge manufacturing plant down to Mexico. And he said, if you do, I'm going to throw a 30% tariff on you. And then what happened? They built in America, right? So tariffs play an important role either in negotiation or just keeping manufacturing here?
In this case, it's negotiating, right? He's been able to use them to, at least at this point, successfully negotiate. I don't know how often you can show that hand, though.
Yeah, you can only play those cards so long. Yeah.
How long can that? But I know when I went to bed last night and I saw $830 a year per household, you'd said in the morning meeting, that doesn't sound like that much, but tacked on to how much extra we've been paying over the course of the last 4 or 5 years, going into the 5th year due to inflation. I just don't think households are up for another $75 a month. And then if your car blows out this year and it's $3,000 because there's a 25% tariff, and then if you're looking to buy a home and you haven't gotten in at the right time and the lumber is an extra, there's 25%. Because what we've learned in this process is that usually that cost gets passed on to the consumer. As you often say, corporations aren't charities, right? If they have to pay more for something on the front end, they're going to charge you more on the back end. Why? Well, that's how businesses work. So I was concerned overall about how much more our listeners and their families are going to have to be forking out if these tariffs do indeed go through.
But I do chuckle when you say we import all this wood from Canada. This is where we get our lumber. We have plenty of trees here in America.
Well, okay. All right, we'll leave it at that. If you rent, would you want your landlord to give you a 60-day notice of a rent hike? Oh, that sounded reasonable to me. If it's yes, then you'll want to stick around for our next discussion because Utah's Capitol Hill is weighing in on this. That's next.
The newest part of your morning and still so familiar.
When you wake up and listen to a radio show, it's like you're a part of a family. You're listening in on people you know, and it's magnificent that Andy Farnsworth is sitting in the chair because he's someone we know.
Utah's Morning News. Andy Farnsworth joins Amanda Dixon to bring you important news in the car. 5 to 9 on KSL News Radio.
If you're trying to decide which gutter protection to put on your home, don't just ask how they'll handle leaves. Ask how they'll handle ice. Tim Jr. here from RGS Exteriors, and that's right, ice. See, plenty of gutter guards are good at keeping out leaves, but most are made with flimsy materials that can bend, buckle, and break under the weight of too much ice. Kind of a big problem in an icy state like Utah, right? At RGS Exteriors, our exclusive gutter protection systems are built Utah tough. They're made with premium strength materials that hold up to 1,200 pounds of ice per square foot. Simply put, they're not going to budge. Our gutter guards are also certified to handle hurricane-level winds and rain. Mother Nature can't damage them. Guaranteed. Utah Tough Products. That's the RGS way. For a free estimate, call 801-280-3110 or visit rgsexteriors.com. That's rgsexteriors.com or 801-280-3110.
Utah Symphony Utah Opera's schedule is like a playlist on shuffle. There's so much variety. Enjoy films, operas, pops, masterworks, and family concerts, all performed by one of the finest orchestras in the country. Tickets start at $21. Visit usuo.org.
Attention home buyers, want to save hundreds on your mortgage payment or buy a bigger, nicer home? Visit SaveRight.com. This is Rod with the SaveRight team at Realty Path. SaveRight, our name says it all. SaveRight real estate clients often save $300 to $600 a month on their mortgage. Life of loan savings can be over $300,000. SaveRight clients qualify for and buy bigger, nicer homes. Interest rates are around 7%. SaveRight clients can get fixed rates in the 5s. Our affiliate lender makes it all possible. You can even start with a rate in the 2s. If you're buying or selling a home in Utah, save a ton of money. Hire the SaveRight team of realtors. Visit SaveRight.com for more information.
Hi, this is Doug Wright, and over the years, you've heard me praise the Connecticut soft water systems. You've heard that so often, you might be tempted to chuck a shoe at your radio. Well, hang on, because I've got some great news. Get this, Connecticut will pay you $50. I'm not kidding on this. They'll pay you $50 to buy a competing water softener from another dealer. Ready for the rules, though? Well, they're pretty simple. Invite Connecticut of Utah to your home for a free estimate on a Connecticut water softener. If within 60 days of hearing them out, you buy any other system from any other water softener dealer, Connecticut of Utah will fork over $50. That's how sure they are that after hearing them out, you won't settle for anything less than a Connecticut water softener. Now, this offer does expire in 30 days, so don't delay. Call Northern Utah's authorized Connecticut dealer, Connecticut Quality Water Systems of Salt Lake, 801-576-8600, or log on to softwaterutah.com. That's softwaterutah.com. Tell them Doug sent you.
Salt Lake Community College doesn't just support students. We support the economy.
At Intermountain Health, we've had a partnership with Salt Lake Community College for over 22 years. The Salt Lake Community College graduates bring to us a sense of joy, excitement about the future, which infuses into our culture. My name is Amy Christensen. I'm the chief nurse at Intermountain Health for Utah and Idaho, and I oversee all the nursing services.
SLCC is invested in creating a strong workforce for a strong Utah. See our impact at slcc.edu/community.
Over the years, you've brought opioids into your home. They helped when you were in pain, and you held on to them just in case. But holding on to opioids puts your family at risk. Learn more at www.fda.gov/drug disposal.
It's 9:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top local story this hour. It's going to feel a lot more like spring for the next couple of days. KSL meteorologist Matt Johnson says today we're expecting a high of 65 degrees, which would break a record. Tomorrow is expected to be more of the same.
Tomorrow, forecasting 66. That would break an old record of 60 degrees back in 1925, a 100-year-old record.
These temperatures are being fueled by strong winds coming from our south. They're nearly 25 degrees above normal for this time of year. It's happened again. Another man has fallen through the thin ice on a Utah lake just about a week after a teen died in Ogden when he went through the ice into a pond. North Tooele County Fire spokesman John Smith tells KSL-TV the man went into the water to rescue his dog and was in the water about 20 minutes before being pulled out.
Thankfully, the sheriff's deputy was able to get him a rope and pull him to safety, and we didn't have to put anybody in the water.
Smith says with the temperatures the way they are, just stay off the ice.
Once you go in, it's really, really difficult to get yourself out, especially when the ice is so thin.
He says some signs the ice is too thin include slush on the surface or water along the shore. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. President Donald Trump says Americans could feel, quote, some pain by his tariffs against Canada, Mexico, and China, but insists it's necessary to strengthen the U.S. economy. Canadian Prime Minister Trudeau hitting back with 25% tariffs on $106 billion worth of American goods and urging his citizens to buy Canadian. The tariffs are set to launch on Tuesday. Your money at this moment, the Dow is in the negative today, although only 122 points down. I say only because it was a lot worse than that earlier this morning at 44,421. Coming up, if you wore a coat out of habit today, you might regret it at some point today. KSL weather coming up next. KSL News Time, 9:31.
A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM. Boy, right after the holidays, everyone needs a little cash, right?
Oh, yes.
We have great news for you. Right now, UCCU, Utah Community Credit Union, will pay you for your auto loan and credit balances. So all you have to do is just transfer your auto loan or your credit card balance to UCCU. And on top of giving you a low interest rate, which will save you money, UCCU will give you 1% cash back up to $250 on every loan you transfer.
Amanda, as soon as I heard about this, I said, I'm in this exact situation. I transferred. I actually had to have 2 loans to get my car a year ago. Yeah. Long story. Got it consolidated into one, and they paid me 1% back for each thing. I've got 1 payment now instead of 2. It's so much easier, and it took me maybe basically an hour. I just went straight to the website. I applied. They said, you got to send me these documents. I did, and all of a sudden, within a couple of days, I had it all set.
This is how easy they are to work with, always looking for ways to help you and your family. You can find out more on the UCCU mobile banking app or just go to uccu.com/transfer. Utah Community Credit Union. You're going to love where you bank.
Traffic and weather together now, brought to you by Mountain America's limited time balance transfer bonus. Here's Heather Kelly.
The crash on Bangerter Highway has cleared. No more delays southbound right around the 201 freeway. And all the other freeways are also running at speed right now. You shouldn't have any delays on I-15, the east or west side belt routes, or the 201 freeway. A few of the city streets may have a bit of congestion just at larger intersections when lights turn red. Use Superior Water and Air for all your HVAC and water treatment needs. Call 974-9090 or visit superiorwaterandair.com. Superior Water and Air, we got this. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
Today will be cloudy and breezy with highs up to the 60s. Yes, you heard that right. Right now it's already mostly cloudy and 57 degrees in Salt Lake City, 55 degrees in Ogden, and 56 degrees in Provo. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Dave and Dujanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories on KSL News Radio.
Eye on the Hill 2025. Special coverage with Dave and Dujanovic.
So if you rent like you rent a house or an apartment that you live in, you want to pay special attention to this conversation we're about to have, because there was legislation on Capitol Hill, Dave, that would have required landlords to give their tenants 60 days notice of a rent price increase. But that failed, and we're going to talk about why.
60 days? That's 2 months. Is that outrageous? Like, to tell your tenant, hey, in a couple months, your rate's going up, and to require that is not a lot of time. I would understand the problem or the heartache people would have if you had to give them 6 months notice or a year's notice. You want to be flexible with the economy, and if rates go up or down, you want to make sure that you're being fair. But 2 months to give your renter a heads up, that seems totally reasonable.
I haven't rented in a really long time, but I know when I did, I was pretty much broke. I was paycheck to paycheck, and if my landlord would not have given me plenty of notice to adjust or go look for another place that was more affordable, and by the way, I spent a lot of the first few years out of college hopping from place to place based on the lower cost of rent. It's just how it is, and how it was. And it was tough, right? Because then you got to come up with a deposit and you got to pack everything up. You got to pay for the move. But that was worth it to me because I was going to be saving more money over the long run. If I got this dropped on me in 30 days, especially with today's rent prices, I mean, I look at these, I'm like, $1,600 a month is kind of what's average. We're actually looking right now at rentcafe.com. It's $1,597 is the average rent in Utah for a 917 square foot apartment. So those are, to me, those are premium prices. And if somebody's already paying a premium price, treat them like they're a premium client and let them know a $50 or $100 a month rent increase is going to be dropped on them.
And I wonder if there isn't benefit for the landlord as well to be required to have that 60 days. Because if you tell somebody 60 days out, hey, it's going to go up another $100, and they tell you, hey, just so you know, I'm going to have to move. That's a deal breaker for me. Then the landlord needs to come back and say, is it worth losing this tenant? Now I got to start looking. I have a couple months to start looking for someone to replace. So I see benefits for both the landlord and the leasee.
Paul Smith, he's the executive director of the Rental Housing Association in Utah. Good morning, Paul.
Good morning.
The association was opposed to this?
We supported this bill last year. It passed the House just fine, but the state Senate had several significant problems with it. We knew it wouldn't pass in the same form this year, so we opposed it this year. We tried to get the sponsor to make the changes the state Senate asked for, but she refused to make those changes. So unfortunately, the bill did fail, and hopefully we'll be able to go back to the drawing board and get something next year that's a win-win for everyone.
So what are the changes?
Well, the legislature or the Senate specifically said it swung the pendulum one way. It only helped one group. And in Utah, we try very hard to make landlord-tenant law balanced and move. If we're going to make a change and make something better for one side, we make a change and make it better for the other side. And the sponsor of this bill just was simply not willing to do that.
Well, what is that change that would make it better for landlords?
Well, there were all sorts of things on the table. I can't get into the specifics, but again, we were willing to work on this. We were willing to negotiate, but the sponsor was simply not willing to negotiate. And this bill had problems. This bill had too many loopholes. I'll give you one of the biggest problems is landlords have to give 60 days notice to raise your rent, but they can give you 30 days notice to leave. So it's just very confusing. We thought that the average, particularly mom and pop landlords, which, let's face it, is a third of our rental housing is owned by people who own single family homes and duplexes and things like that. We just simply thought it would be too complicated and confusing for them.
So if I'm the landlord, I could see benefit giving 60 days of notice, because then you can put feelers out, see, hey, this is coming up in a couple of months. When you're looking at 30 days, that just seems very quick for everybody involved. 2 months, it seems like a pretty reasonable amount of time. Is this the time frame we're looking at, or are there expectations or hopes that it would increase even more than 60 days?
You're right, Dave. Professional landlords, and I would say about 2/3 of the market, give 60 or even 90 days notice. A typical notice process is we give 90 days notice that we're going to raise the rent, or this is what it is. We'll start negotiating. At 60 days, we have a negotiation. At 30 days, we have a negotiation. So the professionals already do long notices of rent increases. Where this bill would really affect is mom and pop owners whose expenses have really gone up, or who weren't necessarily, this is not their day job, and so they might not have been paying attention, and then all of a sudden they're up against these deadlines. So we want to negotiate with renters groups to find something that's a win-win for everybody. And I would encourage the sponsor and anybody interested, let the sponsor know we ought to try to make a deal next year.
Paul Smith is the executive director of the Rental Housing Association of Utah. He's live with us right now because we're talking about a piece of legislation that failed on Capitol Hill. It would have required a 60-day notice for rent increases from landlords. But that's not going to get off the ground, at least not this year. Paul, are landlords willing to bake that notice into a lease agreement? For example, if I'm going to rent from one of your landlords, could I ask them, can you please include a 60-day notice of a rent increase in my next lease agreement? Are they willing to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. Most of them do, and most of them give you plenty of notice. So this isn't an issue of what is the average or what is the best practice. It's really an issue of the small owners and people that decide to sell, and now they've got to give 60 days notice of on something. So it's an issue of flexibility. And let me just remind you, Amanda, people sometimes say Utah is a landlord-friendly state, and we are, but we also have tremendous protections for renters. We have the ability for renters, if landlords aren't fixing stuff, they can fix it themselves and deduct it from the rent. They can break the lease if things aren't being fixed. There's caps on the amount of rent increases, late fees that can be charged. We have a terrific bill that if you've been evicted, you can get that expunged. Our eviction rate last year again went down. It's almost been going down for 20 years. So we have terrific landlord-tenant laws, but they have to help both sides, and this bill just simply didn't. It swung the pendulum one way, and the sponsor was completely unwilling to talk about things to make it fairer for landlords.
Paul, thank you for joining us. That's Paul Smith, the executive director of the Rental Housing Association of Utah.
Yeah, I want to take some live calls straight ahead. I'm wondering, what is the most your rent has ever increased? Do you have a number? Is it $50 a month? Is it $100 a month? 801-575-TALK, 801-575-TALK. You know, look, you'll go to the front of the line if you were able to negotiate after you got that rent increase with your landlord to keep it the same price. Like, tell us what you did. 801-575-TALK. Let's take your live calls next.
It's the Advanced Window Products President's Day sale. If the cold is seeping in through your old windows, Advanced Window Products will install state-of-the-art double-pane windows with insulated frames. Your home will take on an exciting new look, and you're going to save on your heating bill. And not for nothing, your air conditioning in summer. And right now, with the President's Day sale, you save $2,500 off 10 windows or more. For 38 years, Advanced Windows has been building beautiful custom windows and frames right here in Utah. There's no middleman, so you save. So keep out the cold, cut down your energy bills, and save $2,500 with one call to Advanced Window Products. 801-850-9100. An expert comes out for a no-pressure consultation. They'll tell you about the payment plans, including no payments for 24 months. The Advanced Window Products President's Day sale. Get $2,500 off. Call 801-850-9100. That's 801-850-9100. Or just go to advancedwindows.com.
Hi, welcome to Staples. Hi, I hear Staples can print it all for my business.
Oh, if you can think it, Staples can print it, and will beat any print quote.
Oh, great. I'm thinking new brochures and yard signs.
No problem.
I'm thinking calendars, t-shirts, and pens.
Totally.
I'm thinking Staples is the place for printing.
I thought you might think that.
Right now at Staples, get up to $250 off your print purchase. Ends 4/5 exclusions apply. Visit staples.com/print for offer details. Price match guarantee valid in store and staples.com/print. Visit staples.com/price match for details.
Febreze.
It's a classic odor tale. You fried fish for dinner, cleaned up, but the smell is still in the house. and the neighbors are coming over for game night. They're on their way. And then you spray Febreze Air Mist. Febreze Air starts working instantly to fight even your toughest odors, so you go from fish to fresh like that. Now, all you have to worry about is Pam cheating at charades.
Breathe happy, Febreze, la 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 la.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Eye on the Hill 2025. Special coverage with Dave and Dujanovic.
We were just talking about this piece of legislation that failed. It's the third year in a row it's failed on Capitol Hill. It would have required landlords to give tenants a 60-day notice of a price increase on their rent. And we talked to the landlord, the association that represents landlords in Utah, and they said, look, there were some problems with the legislation. It's not going to go anywhere this year, but they're willing to negotiate for next year. We're taking live calls, 801-575-TALK. I'm curious from our listeners, what is the highest amount you've ever seen for a rent increase?
That's a great question, because when we're looking at rents, it's almost incomprehensible, especially when you and I were back in our renting days before we were homeowners. We'd pay $300, $400, $500. I remember paying $500 in rent. I thought that was just outrageous 20 years ago. Now, on average, we're looking at $1,500, $1,600. And rents have just exploded in the last couple of years because home prices have gone through the roof.
$1,500 average rent price in Utah. Actually, almost $1,600. Excuse me. Yeah, almost $1,600 for a 917 square foot apartment. Hi, Terrence. You live in Ogden. Have you had a big rent increase lately?
Yeah, I just had one just a few months ago. It was about $100, and I got the notice about a week before I was supposed to pay my rent. I'm just wondering if this bill accounts for some of the complexities with homeowners associations and some of the fees that get increased without notification to renters, where that information then goes to the owner. My landlord's a wonderful landlord. I do have to say that. Very responsive, but they own private homes, and they lease them out to people such as myself. And then they are stuck with increases in fees that they have to pay for utilities such as water, gas, or homeowners association fees that go up for absolutely no reason whatsoever. And then that's passed along as soon as they can, I assume. But it is something that does affect you in terms of, wow, that just really cut into my grocery bill for the next week.
Well, $100 a month is an extra $1,200 a year. That is a significant price increase. Thanks for the phone call.
And that's a great point. I hadn't really thought about HOA fees. If HOA fees are going up quickly, so let's say they pass an HOA fee that goes up another $100, $150 for a landlord, if they've got to wait 60 days or 90 days or whatever that requirement is, then they're just absorbing those HOA costs.
Jerry, you own rental properties, and we need to know which rental properties, because it says here, the note from our producer Caitlin says you haven't increased rent in quite some time.
Yeah, Deb, I've got 4 rental properties. Most of them are in Old Sandy.
Nice.
All but one. All of them are single-family homes. My smallest one is a 4-bedroom. I rent that. It went out for $1,850 a month. I've had the same tenants in there for almost 8 years.
Nice.
Every one of my properties I've had. I think the shortest one's been in the one is for 6 years now. And the way I look at that is, yeah, I could probably rent them for, $2,300, $2,200, $2,300, $2,400 a month. But the way I look at that is that if I keep the rents reasonable for the type of property, I'm going to keep tenants in there, especially this time of year. Somebody moves out in the middle of February, it's going to be April or May before you probably rent that place.
Right.
So, you got 3 or 4 months worth of lost income. So it's just, more economically feasible to just keep the rents reasonable, keep the tenants in there so that, you're not doing switch arounds all the time.
Right. No, I like that approach. It's not a business model that a lot of landlords use, but having formerly been a landlord of 2 different properties, can tell you it is tricky to turn those properties around and advertise them and then get people through them to see them and lock people into a lease. Sorry, Dave, you're going to say?
I say people aren't running a charity, right? When you're a landlord and Jerry might be running a charity. If he hasn't raised prices in 7 years, well, in 7 years, homes have more than doubled. And in 7 years, there's some instances where homes have tripled. So it has been an incredible change. And I hear and I appreciate what Jerry's business model is. Sure, you would keep people there, but I also think about the thousands and the tens of thousands of dollars you miss out on by not keeping up with market rates.
So one of our texters says, this is Caitlin, come in here and talk to us, Caitlin. She just sent us a note, and I thought it was one of our text messages. She's going to come in here and talk to us about her situation with her landlord. We just talked to Paul Smith of the Rental Housing Association in Utah about why this legislation on Utah's Capitol Hill that would require landlords to give their tenants 60 days notice of a price increase failed.
This bill had too many loopholes. I'll give you one of the biggest problems is landlords have to give 60 days notice to raise your rent, but they can give you 30 days notice to leave. So it's just very confusing. We thought that the average, particularly mom and pop landlords, which let's face it, is a third of our rental housing is owned by people who own single family homes and duplexes and things like that. We just simply thought it would be too complicated and confusing for them.
Caitlin Johnson's our producer and joins us right now. And Caitlin, when Paul Smith was talking about this, there's kind of 2 different groups. You've got kind of the professional landlord managers, and then you have the mom and pop shops like Jerry, who just called us right now. Do you have a big company that runs yours? Or
I do think they go through a big company, but it's the way that I'm treated feels more mom and pop because they don't have all these added concession fees and all that stuff. So the way it's treated more like a private house in where I'm at, but I know that they do work through it. So
the fact that your landlord has kept your rent relatively the same price, is that why you stay there?
Well, it's gone up, but it's gone up very slowly. When I got in 2018, it was $1,255. Splitting that by 2 people, amazing. 3 bedrooms for a townhouse, and it's gone up $50 since then every year. Okay. Now it's at $16, and I am now paying that by myself, so it's getting expensive. But for what it is, it's amazing. So this is why we've stayed there for so long, because it's been a small increase, and the space you cannot find anything.
You can
else.
Absorb $50.
Yeah, and you can plan slowly, and you're like, okay, maybe next year we're going to leave, but then you go and compare prices elsewhere, and you cannot find anything that compares.
Yeah, it's an interesting business model. So is it the same amount every single year that
That's
they
what
raise
I've
it?
noticed, $50. So the consistent, which I don't know if it's the same coming up, but that's what I'm expecting. So.
No, how much notice do you normally get?
30. And I
30 days?
I would prefer 60 because just 60 all around, like 60 of, if we have to leave would be great too.
60-day notice.
Yeah, 60, because then I can take 30 days to figure out if I want to stay and then 30 days to find a house to go to.
801-575-TALK. We're taking live calls right now about rent increases. Like, what's the worst rent increase you've ever sustained?
Kevin joins us right now to speak from a landlord's point of view. What do you do, Kevin?
I have a home in Cottonwood Heights, Sandy, kind of right on the border, where I just rent out rooms to single guys. And, it is a tricky business, and it's been difficult the past few years. And one of the problems, I've had to raise the rent. I've got one guy that's been there for 20 years. And but I've got 4 rooms, and so I've had several guys come and go. But nobody really talks about the idea that as a landlord, you have to raise the rent because my water fee has gone up. But the really killers has been the insurance and the taxes. They have just gone through the roof. But I do think it is fair to give them, 30 days notice. And even if they come to me and they say, hey, that's really hard, I'll go, hey, let's just do 60 days. I'm trying to work with you. So the problem is when you work with them, they start taking advantage of it sometimes. I've got 2 in there now that are upside down by $2,000 each.
Oh, wow.
And so
Kevin.
You go, I've got to kick them out, and then you lose all of that. So,
yeah.
I mean, I'm not sure what this legislation is about, but I hope there is something that they can address to do that, because you try to work with somebody and then they take advantage of you. So You just have to be careful. But it's the taxes and insurance that it's caused me to have to raise rent, and I give them 30 to 60 days notice.
Kevin, thank you for your phone call, and I think that speaks a little bit to why Paul Smith and the Renters Association opposed this bill, is because he didn't feel like it was balanced enough, that this was a very good bill for the renter, but not so much for the landlord. And they say when they want to pass legislation, they want to make sure that it's mutually beneficial. They felt like this one was one-sided in favor of the renters, so that's why they ended up opposing this piece of legislation, and it didn't go anywhere this year.
At KSL News Radio, we have a 30-year legacy of honoring Utah teachers, but we can't do it without your help. Please tell us about an important teacher in your life on the KSL Teacher Tribute Wall, presented by Cypress Credit Union. Each month, one lucky teacher wins a $500 gift card from Cypress Credit Union, a $250 gift card to Harmon's, plus season tickets to Hale Center Theater. Say thanks to your teacher today at kslnewsradio.com/teacher from Cypress Credit Union and KSL News Radio.
I was kind of chuckling the other day, Debbie. I was playing pickleball with my buddies, and I looked up where we were playing pickleball, and there was a big Master Electrical and Mountain Home Services billboard. It was just right there in the pickleball place, and it just let me remember, or reminded me, listen, folks, if you need somebody that can help you out at your house in so many different needs, Mountain Home Services can take care of you.
Yeah, that's right. Now that they've joined forces, you and I have been talking about getting your electrical needs met, that recessed lighting you need to replace, those outlets that are getting old and they don't hold the plug anymore. Well, that's what Master Electrical Service has been expertly doing for decades in Utah. Now that they've joined forces with Mountain Home Services, that means they can also help you with your HVAC, your heating and air, your plumbing.
So this comes with an upfront pricing guarantee. If you're wondering what that means, when they come out and they give you a bid, you can trust that's what the job is going to cost. That's the upfront pricing guarantee, and there's not going to be any hidden fees.
Yeah, no hidden fees, like you said. Been around. Master Electrical Service has been the name you trust since 1954. And again, they've joined forces with Mountain Home Services so they can take care of all of that honey-do list that you've been putting off.
It's a big one. So make sure you check them out on their website, mountainhomeservices.com. It's mountainhomeservices.com.
Or you can call them, 801-543-2222. Again, that phone number is 801-543-2222.
Discover the timeless value at Duke's Jewelers, a local treasure since 1948. Whether you're searching for a unique engagement ring or need expert watch repair, Duke's has been serving the community for over 75 years. From January 23rd to 25th, don't miss the largest event of the year, a 50% off closeout sale on select jewelry. It's the perfect time to visit and explore the wide selection of custom designs and quality gemstones. The skilled designers at Duke's can bring your dream piece to life, while experienced jewelers handle repairs and modifications in-house. Duke's Jewelers takes pride in value pricing, ensuring you receive the best prices every day. Need an appraisal? The Duke's Jewelers AGS certified gemologist is here to help. Whether it's hand or machine engraving or redesigning old favorites into something new, get personalized service for every occasion. Visit Duke's Jewelers and experience the difference of locally operated expertise and dedication. Duke's Jewelers in Springfield, Utah.
This is a story of the one. As a maintenance specialist for university housing, he knows college students can major in wear and tear. Plus, housing so many students doesn't leave a lot of room to house all the supplies he needs. That's where Grainger comes in. With over 1 million industrial-grade products and fast, dependable delivery, Grainger carries the quality products he needs so he doesn't have to. From a new door hinge to a whole new faucet. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Hi, welcome to Staples.
Hi, I hear Staples can print it all for my business.
Oh, if you can think it, Staples can print it, and will beat any print quote.
Oh, great. I'm thinking new brochures and yard signs.
No problem.
I'm thinking calendars, t-shirts, and pens.
Totally.
I'm thinking Staples is the place for printing.
I thought you might think that.
Right now at Staples, get up to $250 off your print purchase. Ends 4/5 exclusions apply. Visit staples.com/print for offer details. Price match guarantee valid in store and staples.com/print. Visit staples.com/price match for details.
The Management Minute is a service of the MBA program in the John M. Huntsman School of Business at Utah State University. I'm Professor Scott Hammond. I think by now most of you have gotten used to our Management Minutes, but how about a Management Hour, live? On February 13th, I'm launching my new book, Highly Reliable Teams When Failure is Not an Option. If you're interested in building better teams, please join us for an open house at the Utah State University Salt Lake campus in Taylorsville for a book signing and training for team leaders. We will learn the 9 critical qualities for highly reliable teams. This is a free training for new and seasoned team leaders. Again, April 13th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., food, giveaways, and lots of learning. Experience an MBA class firsthand for absolutely free. Go to utahstatemba.com for more information. That's utahstatemba.com. I'm Scott Hammond. Hope to see you there.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
It's 10 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top story this hour, President Trump's tariffs on imports for Mexico are now on pause. But what about Canada?
President Trump says he's speaking to Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau Monday afternoon. The president hasn't said whether he'll put on pause his planned 25% tariffs on all products coming into the U.S. from Canada and a 10% tariff on Canadian oil and gas. After a phone call Monday morning with the president of Mexico, Mr. Trump said the tariffs on that country are on hold for a month, and his secretaries of State, Commerce, and Treasury will now negotiate with senior Mexican officials. Karen Travers, ABC News, the White House.
Utah businesses are keeping a close eye on the tariffs President Trump announced. They're coming to Mexico and Canada. According to the Kim C. Gardner Policy Institute, Utah made just under 3% of its total GDP in 2023 from international trading. It also supported more than 71,000 jobs in the state. Utah's biggest trade partners after the United Kingdom are Canada, Mexico, and China. Corey Richins will be back in court today. The Park City mom is accused of killing her husband and then writing a children's book about dealing with grief. The court will begin the juror screening process today. Our top national story this hour from ABC News is the tariffs, as we already mentioned. And now your money, it's really related to your money at this moment. The Dow is down 155 points on the back of the tariff news at 44,389. Coming up, record-setting warmth. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time 10:02. The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
You bought a house. Or maybe you're building one, but it just isn't feeling like home. Not yet. AMC Building Materials has this undeniable knack for transforming a house into a home. Your home. How do they do that? They combine years of exceptional kitchen and bath creations with your ideas. In fact, customer satisfaction is their #1 priority. You know what you want. You know it's not going to be cookie cutter. And this is exactly where AMC shines. AMC delivers exceptional quality, bold-style kitchen and bath designs, along with their exceptional value and a timeline you'll love. Most projects are complete by the elite AMC professional installers in under 10 days. Immerse yourself in the beauty, function, and feel in person at the AMC Building Materials showroom in Salt Lake City. Get directions and schedule your free estimate at amckitchenslc.org. AMC Building Materials, transforming your house into a home. amckitchenslc.org.
This is Derek Overstreet of the New Millennium Group and host of Stop Working and Start Living Radio. If you're close to or in retirement and you don't have a tax plan, call us right now, 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370. Listen, our country's been spending like never before, and the tax bill is coming soon. If you need an income tax strategy and a financial plan that will get you through the rest of your life, give my team a call, 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370. If you want an investment plan that allows you to keep more of your gains and pay less taxes, give us a call, 888-999-6370. My team specializes in the type of plan that will get you retired 3 to 5 years sooner than you thought possible. So, get a no-cost tax analysis by calling 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370. My team is standing by now.
Are you in search of a fulfilling career where you can work on a team that provides you room to grow, learn, and thrive every day?
Focus Engineering and Surveying is looking for individuals to join their team who take pride in the customer service they provide and have a passion for their clients to be successful. No experience in engineering, CAD design, or surveying? No problem. Focus will train those who fit their team culture for rewarding careers in surveying and CAD design. If you can align with the core ideology and the Focus team culture, if you're internally driven, team-oriented, client-focused, and love personal development and growth, Focus Engineering and Surveying is the place for you. Enjoy a positive work environment and paid internship opportunities, plus fantastic benefits like great health care with 80% employer-paid premium and HSA matched up to $200 per month, 401k, vacation, even annual performance bonuses. Start your journey towards your new and fulfilling career. Apply now at focusutah.com. That's focusutah.com.
Any Hour Services can help you make sure your furnace keeps you warm this winter. Whether you need a tune-up, a repair, or a second opinion about replacing it, call Any Hour Services or visit anyhourservices.com.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Mountain America's limited time balance transfer bonus. Let's check in with Heather Kelly.
No accidents reported right now across the Wasatch Front. You've got great speeds if you're on I-15, the east or west side belt routes, or I-80 from Tooele County and going through Parley's Canyon. But we still have a bit of congestion on Bangerter Highway. It's just very typical all day long. Most of this right now is heading northbound, trying to get onto the 201 freeway. Put your energy into that fight song, not fighting for parking. You win when you take UTA to the game. Plan your trip at rideuta.com. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
We could see a high today of 65 degrees and then 66 tomorrow, which would set records for both days. Then we stay warm as a small storm moves in Wednesday that could bring some valley rain. Right now it's 59 degrees and mostly cloudy and windy in Salt Lake City. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Dave and Dujanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories on KSL News Radio.
Eye on the Hill 2025. Special coverage with Dave and Dujanovic.
Well, maybe you thought your local school district had a handle on this, and maybe they do. Some school districts taking actions to keep cell phones out of classrooms, out of kids' hands, bell to bell. Well, this session, Utah lawmakers are taking action to keep cell phones out of Utah classrooms. So we're going to go live to Capitol Hill in just a moment to figure out what lawmakers want to see happen across Utah when it comes to cell phones in schools and also smartwatches.
If I'm a principal, if I'm a teacher, I am praying that this goes through, because then all of a sudden you don't have to be the bad guy. You can say, hey, listen, guys, sorry. Talk to your legislator if you don't like this ban, but this is the law. We gotta ban cell phones. So take that iPhone, the brand new one you got for Christmas, and just place it in this pouch, and you can pick it up at the end of the school day.
Well, every day from 1 to 3 right here on KSL News Radio, there's something called Inside Sources. And recently, two of our hosts spoke with State Senator Lincoln Fillmore, who's he's running this legislation. He's sponsoring this legislation. And he talked about what his motivation is for it.
I've been working on this for most of the last year, a bill to restrict cell phone use in schools. It's just spurred on by the mental health crisis that we're seeing with the rewiring of kids' brains that cell phones have done. Socially, academically, mentally, cell phones have been really harmful. Smartphones specifically have been harmful to kids, and so we want to restrict those in schools. That language is out at Senate Bill 117. I look forward to moving that bill through the process.
And this bill does not just focus on smartphones, it's smart watches as well. Because those watches out there, they can do a lot of things. You can text, you can listen to music, and that is where my son is the guiltiest. He would throw his AirPods in. He had long hair that kind of covered his ears so you couldn't tell. He would have his AirPods in, and he would be rocking out to music during class. It's like class had a soundtrack.
So sneak it in to listen?
Totally sneaking in to listen.
Distracting.
Yeah, totally. And this is what we're trying to address is distractions in the classroom.
Well, if it comes from Capitol Hill, it's statewide. And right now, it seems like each district is trying to manage this on their own. which takes up a lot of time, right? You got to take a lot of input from each parent. You get the input from the kids. Well, this one comes from Capitol Hill. Holly Richardson is the editor of Utah Policy. Also works with us here on KSL News Radio to walk us through what's going on Capitol Hill. Thanks so much, Holly, for joining us once again. My understanding of this legislation is to kind of take the onus off of the districts to deal with this district by district, and the Capitol Hill would just say cell phones are out of the classroom. But if the districts want to implement policies to allow them from time to time, they can. I mean, give us the read on this.
Yeah. This is basically a bottom line bill. So this says if the school district doesn't set its own policy, then this will be the policy. Okay. And if they want to individualize it, they certainly can. But this will be the state baseline.
Has there been pushback from some of the school districts? Because I know they have taken initiative and made some different rules for themselves. There's some that have like a bell-to-bell ban. Others are just once you're sitting in the classroom, they ban that. So has there been any pushback from the local?
There really hasn't been that I have seen. The only pushback is from parents who are concerned that they can't reach kids during an emergency. So this bill actually says that they want to make sure that parents can reach kids during an emergency. I personally have questions on what that would look like. Parents certainly could call the school, but if there were, and this is where our minds go nowadays, what if there were a school shooting and your cell phone were locked up? How do you get a hold of parents, right? But everything I've seen is there's just really strong support. And this is not just a Utah thing. This is going across the nation. It's not just in red states. It's in Democratic-controlled states as well as Republican-controlled states. I mean, just across the board, people are ready to say, look, we just can't have cell phones in classrooms anymore, or the smartwatches either.
In fact, we're going to take live phone calls in just a few minutes, Holly, from our listeners. So I'm going to invite our listeners to call in at 801-575-TALK. Do you like this idea of lawmakers banning cell phones from classrooms? Or are you one of those parents who's concerned that it's a step too far, that you won't be able to get a hold of your child if there's an emergency? 801-575-TALK, 801-575-TALK. We'll be taking your live phone calls in just a few minutes.
Holly, one of the unintended consequences that concerns me, because obviously students are taking advantage, right? They're not paying attention in class. They're distracted. But one of the downsides I see is a lack of digital literacy. So are we taking away the opportunity for kids to learn how to use technology appropriately? Because obviously the way they act in schools would never fly in the workforce, right? If I were sitting in a meeting and I had my head down and I had my AirPods in, ignoring my boss, I'd be out of there.
Right. Because you were playing music, right?
Yeah. Oh, sorry, I was rocking out to the latest Green Day. Go ahead. Sorry, could you repeat that?
Yeah, right. So, no, in fact, this doesn't apply to devices that are already being used in schools to teach kids digital literacy, right? I mean, but it hasn't even been that long. Remember, Speaker Becky Lockhart had a bill, her last legislative session, where she was hoping to pass some law that would say we're going to have a device for every student in every school, right? So she was talking about tablets and things. But basically now, like, we're starting kids basic programming skills in early elementary grades. That all is still there. It's all of the inappropriate sites are locked down. They're not going to be rocking out to music in their class while they're doing programming. And I think that becomes incorporated into the curriculum of, civic literacy. Basically, how do we be good citizens in the world? Well, we're not on our cell phones 24/7. And I think that one of the things that's really important is the kids who are on their phones all the time, besides a drop in grades, besides, issues that we know about body image, we also know that these students are really lonely. These are fake connections that they're making, right? And that's a real issue as well.
Yeah. Holly, thank you so much for joining us. I know you're keeping an eye on this. Let us know what happens with this legislation. Holly Richardson.
My pleasure.
Editor of Utah Policy. Happy Monday to you, Holly, as you go about covering Capitol Hill throughout the day and the weeks ahead. 801-575-TALK. How do you feel about Utah lawmakers legislating a ban, at least in classrooms, not allowing kids to use their cell phones or their smartwatches?
And I want to know also from our listeners, again, give us a call, 801-575-TALK. Are you good with the enforcement of this? Are you willing as a parent to let a teacher come in, take your kid's phone, and put it in the come back after school bin, right? Are you okay with a teacher taking that phone as punishment to enforce these laws? Because that's where I think the rubber's got to hit the road. Parents have got to say, absolutely, if my kid is abusing the privileges that the teacher is given, you absolutely have my permission to take that phone for the rest of the day.
How do you feel about not being able to get a hold of your child if something were to happen at the school? And we know things happen at the school. We've had plenty of evacuations at our schools regarding false alarms, but they still empty out the schools, and parents are trying to figure out what's going on.
We were able to do it for decades and generations before.
I know.
It's a convenience to have the phones and to be able to have the alert system. I get it. But I don't think the juice is worth the squeeze, right? On the off chance that we need to reach our kids in an emergency where they can't go over the PA, listen, I just think it's worth. There's so much damage that is happening right now with kids being distracted, disengaged in the classroom, taking advantage, that it's probably worth the sacrifice.
Hi, Carrie. You live in Ogden. Does the district up there, what's the policy for the kids up there? I'm not familiar with what Ogden is doing.
Yeah, and I'm actually in North Ogden, but they've instilled, different policies, and I've seen one recently on the, no cell phones. I honestly don't know exactly how it works.
Do you have concerns over a statewide ban, if you will, on kids carrying cell phones into class?
I honestly don't mind either way. I mean, I think if kids are getting distracted and stuff and that's showing up, for sure to have the ban. If it was in place, I would fully support it. I think it's no problem kids learning to be without that, and maybe parents learning that their kids can be fine.
That's a great point. Yeah, can parents learn that? Because it's going to make us change the way we communicate with our kids. Have I texted my kids during class? 100% I have. Now, I don't necessarily expect an immediate response. I figure, hey, they'll just hit me up when...
I'm guilty of that.
Totally guilty.
All caps, call me now.
Oh, really?
They're in the middle
Can
of
I use the bathroom?
Yeah, they're in the middle of a text. I mean, they're in the middle of a test. When you figure something out, it's like, you need to get a hold of your kids, right? Call me now. And it's like, there's complete disregard that they may be unavailable to call. I think it would take a lot for parents to get used to this idea that you can't reach out to your child in class. We've become habituated to being able to do that. But when I grew up, we didn't have that. If you needed to call your mom or dad, you had to go to ask the office to use the phone, or you had to carry initially it was 10 cents, and then they talk about inflation. They hiked the price of the payphone
to a quarter
by the school gym to 25 cents. You had to carry a quarter around with you. And even then, when you called home, it had better be for a good reason, right? I mean, you better have not just forgotten your lunch. If you forgot your lunch, too bad. Go figure that out. It better be that you forgot, to bring back your final project or something like that. And you're going to fail out of high school if you didn't have a parent drop it off by, 2 p.m. So we're in an era of complete convenience for communication. I think we've grown used to it. I think there are definitely some good reasons why, we have cell phones now. I love the idea of my kids being able to track me to make sure I make it to work, and I'm being able to track my adult kids to make sure they're okay. I don't sit there and stare at their location, but if they're supposed to be somewhere and they're not there, I might check. So it does give us peace of mind, but at what price? I think kids of younger ages are being so disrupted, and they feel compelled to reply right away. They haven't figured out that they can put down their cell phone, come back to it in 2 hours. The same text messages will still be there. They can call their parents back later. They just feel like they got to get a response out right away, and that is just distracting them all day long.
We're taking your phone calls, 801-575-TALK. Let's jump out to Nancy in Eagle Mountain. Now, Nancy, you have an interesting angle to this. You actually have a concern with kids having their cell phones during an emergency.
Yeah, I have worked in risk management and emergency procedures, and I have found that if cell phones ring during an emergency, if like a parent calls a child while there's an active shooter there, either the ring of that cell phone or even the vibration could tell the shooter where the child is. So in emergencies, it's better that they just not have that option. It could be dangerous for the student.
It's tough, right? I mean, you think about that. I know when my kids were doing these active shooter drills that they started to implement many years ago, they'd all pile in the same closet, to hide during the drill. You think about one child's cell phone going off, and there's 5 or 6 or 10 or 12 kids in the same area hiding. You're right. It could absolutely put them at risk. I think parents don't really think of that just because we're in panic mode.
Yeah, it's run, hide, fight,
And
right? That's what
younger kids might not think to turn off
silence
their phone.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. In the middle of it, of panic and being terrified. Another thing that is problematic during an emergency, as much as we want to reach out to our kids and find out if they're okay, one of the problems that we saw, I'm reminded of the hoax call that happened down in Spanish Fork last year, maybe even a couple years ago.
Yeah, remember that?
There were a series of them, and what we learned was kids were spreading misinformation in an unbelievable way. Like, this was a complete and total hoax call, and you had kids that were texting each other and telling their parents, calling them on the phone, saying, I heard gunshots. There were absolutely no gunshots, but they heard something that they interpreted as a gunshot. So the amount of misinformation that is happening, during an emergency situation could be problematic as well.
One of our texters at 57500 said they had to buy their kids smartphones when they started in 8th grade because their teachers kept giving them web links to assignments instead of paper assignments. So they were constantly needing to be on the internet in school, and they weren't given computers. Okay. You can see where that would lead to a problem, right? I mean, you got to be able to get on the web to do your assignment, but if the school's not providing computers, then I think a lot of schools do provide computers now, Dave. What do you know about that since you have kids in
all of
public
my kids
school?
Yeah, absolutely. They were assigned a computer at the beginning of the year. One of the biggest shockers of my entire life, Debbie, is when they assigned all these computers out to kids, how well the kids have taken care of these computers.
Really?
They're not losing them. They're not losing chargers. They're not breaking them. It has been incredible to watch these kids be responsible with and they're cheap little Chromebooks. They're not expensive, but nevertheless, they take care of these computers. So it has been fantastic. I've seen our kids come home, work on their homework. Everything is digital. Very, very seldomly do they come home with a stack of papers. Everything is done in Canvas. Everything is done online.
We're talking about legislation on Utah's Capitol Hill that would prohibit kids from bringing cell phones, smartwatches into the classroom. It's State Senator Lincoln Fillmore who is sponsoring this legislation. In fact, he spoke recently to Inside Sources. You can hear Inside Sources every day from 1 to 3 right here on KSL News Radio. But if you missed him on Inside Sources, here's what he had to say about it.
I've been working on this for most of the last year, a bill to restrict cell phone use in schools. It's just spurred on by the mental health crisis that we're seeing with the rewiring of kids' brains that cell phones have done. Socially, academically, mentally, cell phones have been really harmful. Smartphones specifically have been harmful to kids, and so we want to restrict those in schools. That language is out at Senate Bill 117. I look forward to moving that bill through the process.
I like what one of our texters said. It's not just parents who are trying to reach our children during school. Employers feel justified in reaching out to their teenage employees when they know they're still in high school. I hadn't thought about that, but you're right. It's just so easy to send that text off like, hey, just heads up, can I get you to come into work 30 minutes early after you're off out of school, thanks.
So it's employers, it's parents, it may be siblings, it's their friends. There's notifications from Facebook, Instagram, maybe Snapchat, TikTok. Maybe they're getting news notifications as well. I don't know. That's a lot of information pouring out of their cell phones in their faces all day long. I think you have to think about, what do you really want for your child? What do you want for them? Do you want them to be focused on their cell phone all day long, or feel compelled to respond to their cell phone? Or do you want them to be in school to learn the subject matter that is before them?
The average teen receives 237 notifications per day.
Mm-hmm. Well,
all those things that you just listed, Debbie.
Yeah.
The text messages, the DMs, the alerts, the news alerts, because I know they're just riveted to that, but 237 notifications per day.
Straight ahead, some Utah homeowners have been sounding an alarm about their new solar panels. And they've been talking to KSL 5 Television's investigative reporter Matt Gephardt about an issue that they have, even after their solar panels are installed on their rooftops. Matt's joining us next to tell us more.
Join the smartest conversation in Utah, the team of analysts and political advisors that make up Inside Sources. Get unfiltered analysis of the new administration, the president's cabinet, and Utah's upcoming legislative session. Inside Sources, weekdays from 1 to 3 on KSL News Radio.
Are you tired of the pain and discomfort caused by those bulky, ill-fitting dentures? Sick of feeling self-conscious when you eat with family and friends? It's time to take charge. Stubbs Dental Implant Center, Utah's Best of State winner, is here to give you your freedom back. Say goodbye to dentures and say hello to the All-on-X dental implant procedure, the permanent, life-changing fix that lets you chow down on your favorite foods without a care in the world and flash that confident smile once again. With cutting-edge technology, you can have a brand new permanent smile in as little as 24 hours. Yes, you heard right. Fast forward to finals and let your new smile steal the show. And here's the best part. Your consultation is absolutely free. At Stubbs Dental Implant Center, Utah's #1 dental implant center, they've helped thousands of patients love their smiles again. You could be next. It only takes 60 seconds to start your journey to a happier, healthier smile at StubbsDental.com. That's StubbsDental.com.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
slow it down and get it going slower.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avacincaptad pagel is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com.
Take advantage of Yes Heating, Air Conditioning, Plumbing, and Electric's $99 or it's free mainline drain clearing special. That's right, $99 or it's free. Feel secure knowing the trusted professionals at Yes guarantee that if we can't clear it, you don't pay for it. Whether it's a small clog or a larger mainline sewer drain issue, the experienced technicians at Yes are ready to solve all of your drain problems. Call now or visit theyesmancan.com for details, terms, and conditions.
This is a story of the one. As a maintenance specialist for university housing, he knows college students can major in wear and tear. Plus, housing so many students doesn't leave a lot of room to house all the supplies he needs. That's where Grainger comes in. With over 1 million industrial-grade products and fast, dependable delivery, Grainger carries the quality products he needs so he doesn't have to. From a new door hinge to a whole new faucet. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Febreze. It's a classic odor tale. You fried fish for dinner, cleaned up, but the smell is still in the house. And the neighbors are coming over for game night. They're on their way. And then You spray Febreze Air Mist. Febreze Air starts working instantly to fight even your toughest odors, so you go from fish to fresh like that. Now, all you have to worry about is Pam cheating at charades.
Breathe happy, Febreze, la 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 la. 911, what's your emergency?
Someone on the other line said they kidnapped my son.
On September 12, 1995, McKay Everett disappeared from his home in Conroe, Texas.
There was no sign of forced entry. It was just as if McKay had walked out of his own free will.
And to this day, McKay's mother, Paulette, feels that justice was never truly served. Ransom is available now. Listen at ransompodcast.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
It's 10:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top story this hour. We're seeing extra warm temperatures today thanks to strong winds bringing in warm air from the south. The National Weather Service says we broke a daily record in Salt Lake City yesterday with a high of 61 degrees. And KSL meteorologist Matt Johnson says we should see another record fall today.
Today's high forecasting 65. That would break an old record of 64 back in 1953.
Temperatures are expected to dip back into the 50s Wednesday with a small chance of rain. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Crews have started removing wreckage from the Potomac River from the deadly midair collision last week that killed 67 people. The Army Corps of Engineers says portions of the aircraft will be loaded onto flatbed trucks and taken to a hangar for further investigation. The remains of 55 of the people killed in the collision have been recovered. For the third year in a row, a Utah bill which would require landlords to give at least 60 days' notice before they raise rents has failed. Executive Director of the Utah Rental Housing Association, Paul Smith, tells Dave and Dujanovic there needed to be more of a balance.
We knew it wouldn't pass in the same form this year, so we opposed it this year. We tried to get the sponsor to make the changes the state Senate asked for, but she refused to make those changes, so unfortunately, the bill did fail.
Bill sponsor Galen Benyon previously told KSL she set out to help both renters and landlords, and she wants to give renters every tool needed to thrive. Your money at this moment, the Dow has reacted negatively to the tariffs. It's down 105 points today to 44,438. Coming up, the wind is going to be around a while, even with these warm temperatures. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time 10:31.
Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
How does a soccer club born in an unlikely place?
Utah? You sure you want to do that in Utah?
Built with players no one else wanted.
We knew no one believed in us.
Reached the league's highest heights.
We finally did it. It was like just this feeling of getting to the top of the mountain.
How does that same team find a way to shatter expectations in the midst of a fight for its own survival?
Our club is burning to the ground as we speak.
I'm Amy Donaldson, and in a new podcast, Making of a Moment, the RSL story, we take a closer look at one of those iconic sports moments.
Soccer is a crazy game, and we saw it firsthand tonight.
And unravel how knowing the truth of these moments can transform what they mean.
I just kind of got chills right now thinking about it.
Making of a Moment, the RSL story, is available now. Follow us at makingamomentpod.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's limited time balance transfer bonus. Here's Heather Kelly.
Things are looking good all across the Wasatch Front. No problems on I-15 or the east or west side belt routes. We always have a bit of congestion on Bangerter Highway right near the 201 freeway, but no other delays that I'm seeing in the road construction zones on Bangerter Highway, even down in the Harriman area where we'll typically see delays, but that looks pretty clear right now. Ballet West Cinderella, live with the Ballet West Orchestra. Buy tickets today at balletwest.org. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
Near record highs today and tomorrow with highs in the mid-60s. We could see some rain in the valleys on both Wednesday and Friday when temperatures start to cool into the 50s. It's weird to say that in February. It's cooling to the 50s. Right now, it's actually 59 degrees in Salt Lake City, 58 degrees in Provo, and 57 degrees in Ogden. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Dave and Dujanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories on KSL News Radio.
Getting solar panels installed on your roof, I mean, that's a pretty pricey endeavor. Well, now some Utah homeowners have been sounding an alarm about their new solar panels, and they've been talking to KSL Television's investigative reporter Matt Gephardt. Panels, from what I could see from his story and his reporting, were installed on their rooftops. So all set? No.
Where are your solar panels?
Right. I don't know. I mean, they haven't started on this at all.
They haven't hooked them into the grid. They haven't turned them on.
Yeah, they've got all kinds of issues. Either they've paid for them and they haven't been installed, or they've installed them and they aren't running.
They went by whatever my monthly bill was before they install it. For me, it's been about a year and a half. My panels are still not working.
Oh, a year and a half and his panels still are not working. That has got to be so incredibly frustrating, because you're spending $15,000, $20,000, $30,000 for these solar panels to not have them work out. That's absolutely inexcusable. But I can see the temptation to invest in solar panels, right? This is a great way long-term to provide power. And in fact, I didn't really realize the possibilities of solar panels and solar power in America until Elon Musk, he was sitting down with Joe Rogan, and he described how much solar we would need to power the entire United States. Listen to this. This is if we just built solar panels in the middle of the West Desert. He said in Utah, in Texas, or Nevada, if we just took a huge chunk of land, this is how big the solar farm would need to be, but it would power the entire nation.
You could actually power the entire United States with 100 miles by 100 miles of solar.
Really?
Yes.
So you could just pick some dead spot that you fly over,
which there are plenty.
Cover that sucker up with solar panels, and charge the whole country.
Absolutely.
24/7.
We need batteries, but yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's not hard.
We have the possibilities of using solar panel to power this nation, but we're having a hard time getting it to work, even on a small levels at times, to even get it hooked up from our roof to the grid.
And now Utah lawmakers are getting involved in some of the troubles that homeowners have brought to Matt's attention. Good morning, Matt.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. So Utah lawmakers are stepping into this solar situation where you found that some homeowners are just having a hard time getting the panels, I guess, installed, or once they're installed, hooked up and actually working. What's going on?
Yeah. Yes, indeed. Yeah. Yes, indeed. And this is really this is. The title of the bill has the word residential in it. So make no mistake, Dave, this has nothing to do with the could we power our country with this stuff. This is all about you and me, Joe Citizen, who wants them on our roofs. But yeah, for as long as I've been a reporter, this has been I could honestly do a story a week on YouTube. That's how many complaints I get on solar customers who, and it's not always the same. Sometimes the salesman comes and then they take the deposit and then they never show up again. Sometimes they go to the trouble of putting the panels on the roof, but they're so far behind on other things that they can't get the power company to come out and actually turn the power on, or they get them installed, but it turns out they did it wrong or something. Sometimes it's they take money, or they say a new roof needs to be done after they've gotten started. Now you have people who thought they were going to be into this for $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 who now are looking at a $50,000 thing, and they don't have $50,000, and so these things stall. And one of the biggest complaints we get is these salespeople who come there and say, here's what you need, and it will 100% offset. They look at their power bills and they say this will completely offset your power. You will not be reliant on your power company anymore. Your bills will be down to basically zero. And then the panels go up on the roof, and they're not even close to that. I mean, they're subsidizing the bill a little bit, but it's not even close to these promises. And so it has now prompted one Utah lawmaker he's currently running a bill. It's moving through it the way bills do, not particularly quickly, but he's currently running a bill that would say, no, if you make promises of what it will do, you have to live up to those within 80%. You are not allowed to start charging the customer until these things are actually up and running and generating power. It's already a crime to take somebody's deposit and then not show up and do the job. So
right.
that isn't really part of this bill per se, but that remains a illegal thing to do in the state of Utah. But yeah, we'll see where this one goes.
We're speaking with KSL 5 Television investigative reporter Matt Gephardt as we're discussing solar panels and making sure that you get what you pay for. One of the struggles I know with companies and as the homeowner is you're dealing a lot with third parties. So the salesman, and then where you get the solar panels from, and then who actually installs it. It's not always the same company. You're oftentimes subcontracting out, so you may not have this easy connection to everybody.
And this is a very common excuse, and this goes beyond solar panel companies, to be sure. I've heard it over the years a lot with alarm companies. Back in the day before streaming, it used to be everybody selling for the satellite, that they put on your roof, the little at-home satellites where a promise would be made, and solar companies too, of course, but a promise is made in your dining room, and that promise can't be lived up to, and then the company washes their hands of it and says, hey, that was made by a third-party contractor. And so actually the bill would address one of those concerns and say that if you have somebody going door to door and you have somebody actually going out and making sales on behalf of the company, they need to actually work for the company so that they are responsible. They understand your company's rules and policies.
Matt, certainly there are probably plenty of solar panel customers who've installed these things on their rooftop and are happy with the outcome. And I know you hear from people who aren't happy. Naturally, if they're frustrated with the company, they're going to reach out to you to get help. I would think that one of the recommendations would be, if you see somebody in your neighborhood with solar panels on and somebody's knocked on your door, go down the street and ask them who installed their solar panels and what the experience has been like. What are the other best practices for people who want to spend several $1,000s putting these on their rooftops?
I mean, sure, your word of mouth and reviews are important. Just because your neighbor had a good experience doesn't mean you'll have a good experience per se. But that's also a common line that a door-to-door guy will use to get in the door. Hey, I just did this for your neighbor down the street, which frequently is not true, right? And so, really looking into the company, how long have they been around? Take a look at that warranty. Take a look at the contract, the financing of the contract. Will this be something that is being paid to some, because a lot of them, it's the third-party financing where it gets really wonky. And then it's also important to note, and I don't want to sound like I'm down on solar. I'm not. I think this is an interesting way that people can take control of some of their own power. But the rules have changed, right? When solar first came on the market, it used to be that you could essentially have the panels pay for themselves in a very short period of time. And then after some lobbying by power companies where they said, wait a minute, this isn't fair because they're essentially competing with us. They're generating power and essentially become competition with us, whereas they don't have to maintain the grid and have all these employees and maintain the lines and maintain the trucks and everything else. It shouldn't be a 1-to-1 kilowatt, right? Like for what we sell a kilowatt for, we shouldn't have to essentially take their power back into our grid at that same price. So what used to, in some cases, math on the radio is always great, but, it used to be you could pay off in maybe 10 years. Now maybe it'll be more like 50, 60 years in some cases. So these are the kind of things you should consider when you're deciding if it's a good choice for you.
Matt Gephardt, thank you for joining us. Look forward to your reports all the time. And this was especially interesting, this new law, this new bill that is proposed that would put more regulation or requirements from solar companies to make sure that everything that's promised at the kitchen table is followed through with.
Yeah, you can see Matt's full report at ksltv.com. And, of course, you can see Matt daily at KSL 5 Television when you're watching the news on 5, 6, 6:30, and 10. But straight ahead, our very own Andy Farnsworth of Utah's Morning News. He's going to walk in any moment in his studio and tell us about a cautionary tale about the solar panels for his home. Andy's up next.
Camping season is right around the corner, and Motorsportsland is throwing a huge RV party in the KZ RV Megatent. Come and check out hundreds of the newest RVs, RV accessories, and enjoy exciting activities including kids' movie nights, RV seminars, on-site radio events, yard games, live bands, food trucks, and did we mention over $30,000 in giveaways? Event sponsors include KZ RV, Owned by Cummins, Suburban RV Appliances, Lion Energy, Lippert, Utah Big Game Outfitters, Equalizer, and many more. Free admission, free seminars, and free activities. No need to wait for a show. Buy your RV at Motorsportsland this week in confidence with our best price guarantee for 2 weeks after your purchase. Check out motorsportsland.com for event schedule and guarantee details. Adventure awaits at Motorsportsland's Mega Tent RV event.
Let Motorsportsland help you get away.
4001 South State.
What was that? That is business phone bliss with the Ooma Cloud Phone System. It handles all our voice, video, and messaging needs.
You sound very
calm. I am. Ooma has everything I need to run my business more efficiently, like virtual receptionist, call routing, and video conferencing. And it starts at just $19.95 per month per user, plus taxes and fees.
Ooma.
Nice. Find your business calm at ooma.com/radio.
Jackson Hewitt makes taxes feel like a yacht rock song.
April breeze, give me my biggest tax refund, please. You, me, and a lifetime accuracy guarantee.
And now get $100 just to try Jackson Hewitt. Does your tax person do that?
Say goodbye to that no guarantee tax guy.
Ready to sail through tax season? Go to Jackson Hewitt and you'll be
Reeling in the refund.
limited time offer for new clients. Participating locations only. Terms at jacksonhewitt.com.
Dave and Dujanovic.
We're going to talk to our very own Andy Farnsworth of Utah's Morning News in just a moment because he had solar panels put on his home, and he's got a series of question marks and a cautionary tale based on his own experience to share with our listeners. Dave, we just spoke with KSL Television's Matt Gephardt. He's been doing a series of stories on complaints from people who've had solar panels installed on their rooftop, or they've entered into a contract with a solar panel company, and the panels either aren't working or aren't installed. And so Utah lawmakers are now looking at passing some legislation that would delay a homeowner's payments to the company if their panels or the system isn't actually running and creating usable energy.
My son actually sold solar panels for a couple of months shortly after his mission. So he reminded me, or he told me the story one time. He went out, knocked on a door, told people, hey, solar this. And they're like, oh, yeah, they're sitting in my backyard. They were just sitting. They had arrived,
panels.
but for months and months, they had been sitting there uninstalled.
From another company.
Ah,
okay.
And so, yeah, sometimes what is sold and then what is actually delivered is very, very different. Many times, oftentimes, it is exactly as it is pitched or sold. But we have heard enough stories of people being frustrated, and one of those stories comes from our very own Andy Farnsworth from Utah's Morning News.
Good morning, Andy.
Good morning.
Walk us through it.
To recount first of all, somebody showed up at my door and said, hey, your neighbors have had solar installed. I could look on their roofs. I could see the solar. And they had just worked with a couple of my neighbors, and they said, let's just walk you through this. Let me see what your electrical bill was, and we've got this thing, and you get the last 3 months. And we were on the equal payment plan for electricity. So he's like, if we can, meet this equal, if we can do this solar to where your monthly payment for the solar will equal the electrical bill, and it'll basically zero out your electricity. So you're just moving the payment that you're already making every month into this. There were some financial incentives, this was in 2019, that were set to expire, some financial incentives to get solar. So they, you want to act now. So of course that was a little bit of a, okay. And, solar was something that I had in my mind that we were going to do eventually. Here's the chance to get a little bit of a deal. Plus then supposedly, this amount of time with no interest. Okay. They go through the whole thing. They did. Now I will say this, they did install the panels. We got everything, and it was running. But then, then they were done, and then they passed it off. So the company, the people that sold it to me wasn't the company that actually I was buying the solar from and that was doing a lot of the things. And so a little bit later, my solar panels would report what the usage was through the data that it had installed on the converter box. But it was through Sprint. And guess what? Sprint got bought by T-Mobile, and eventually T-Mobile replaced the network that Sprint was using originally. Now, I did get an email at some point later that said, hey, you're going to need to replace this or you're not going to be able to check in on your solar. Well, I didn't do it fast enough. But then finally, when I realized I couldn't check on my solar, And I asked my brother-in-law who sold solar, which I found out after I bought that I could have gone to my brother-in-law.
And got advice.
Didn't buy from family. Okay,
I
good.
didn't. I should have.
Yep.
Okay.
Again. But then they said, oh, you just have to. I found the website. Says you got to buy this inverter, this new thing. I bought it, $550.
Yeah.
Then for 4 months, I heard nothing. Didn't get the part. I still can't check on my power. Finally, I send an email. I'm like, hey, I'm not going to be, but you've charged me. Like, you didn't just put my card on hold. You've actually charged and taken the full payment.
$550.
And that's not a little bit of
No,
money. I
that's-
can't
yeah.
just eat that.
Right.
Couldn't hear. Finally, after 4 months, I felt like I was extra patient. 4 months, I sent the letter that said, hey, I haven't heard back from you. Unfortunately, this sounds like I'm going to have to take legal action. Well, guess what? I got an email the next day.
Mm-hmm.
And then they said, oh, but we actually don't do business in your market anymore. So we're going to just need to refund you that payment.
So what does this mean
And then it
for
took them
you
4 more months to do that.
to refund the payment? So what does this mean for your situation now with solar? What does that
I
look
have
like?
no way of checking to see what my solar panel output is. The only thing I can do is I can look on the inverter box and I get the red, yellow, green telling me it's working.
And why does that matter for you to check on your output? Explain that
Well,
to me.
because I'm still getting electrical bills that in the summer sometimes are $250.
So you're still paying
Yes,
for
I
your
have
electricity.
I have had
through
1
the
month in
utility
the 4
company.
years that I have not paid the electric company along with the solar. So what that means, I think, is we don't have enough panels to meet what the electricity use is in our home. But they were trying to match that price that I was paying on my bill 5 years ago so that I would buy it. So my advice is this. One, don't buy solar unless you're prepared to dig all the way into how this works, what the actual costs are. If it's just a convenience thing, don't do it right then. And the other thing is, and I'm just going to say this, pick a local company that's been around for a few years. Because, I mean, that was so frustrating that and by the way, trying to find it through their website was just a nightmare. Until I finally found a place where I could buy the part that I supposedly needed, only to be told that, sorry, we can't do that because we can't send anybody to your area to install
So
it.
in the meantime, you are generating some solar, but you don't know how much, and you're still paying an electric bill.
Yes. And so now I don't know if all of my panels are working. Enough of them are working for there not to be an error message on the red, yellow, green lights. But that's it. And so I'm kind of stuck right now. And I don't know if that means I've got to spend several $1,000s to replace the inverter box that will come with a new modem on it. But I'm just sort of in limbo right now. But at least I got my $550 back.
Do you know who to call or who can help service this for you?
Well, there's nothing that I can do as far as the servicing now that doesn't require a replacement because the company that did the install doesn't do business here anymore.
Interesting.
So I'm going to have to go to another company and then again, I've got to trust them. If they say they got to replace the whole thing, what am I supposed to say about that?
So
I don't
did
know.
you pay an upfront price?
Yes,
I know
and I've
these
actually
things-
rolled the cost of that into a refinance I did on my house.
You're still
during the
But you
pandemic.
still paid the $20,000.
Yeah, it was like
for-
$30,000. I think.
$30,000 for the panels, and that's one of the frustrations that I've heard. Andy, thank you for sharing that because it obviously you made an investment in your home.
And I have a south-facing roof, so theoretically, I should
be great.
I should be sucking down the solar energy and generating it, and I just don't know.
Yeah. Well,
but again, some of it is my fault.
Well-
I will cop to that.
Right.
Well, this
we appreciate
new
you saying that too, because I think it'll help other people to, take some steps to make sure that doesn't happen to them.
Yeah, I would just say if you're doing it out of convenience, wait. Be ready to dive all the way in so that you make sure, because it is. I mean, $30,000 is a big expense.
Oh, definitely
Huge.
And one of the things that this new bill on the Hill would do is it would require a delivery, so to speak, of 80% of what they promised you, so that you couldn't be surprised that this investment is not paying off. And I think that's part of the frustration with folks is, who do you call now, and who's going to service your loan, or was this just a one-time transaction that installs your panels and you never hear from them again?
Yeah, because I called Rocky Mountain initially saying, hey, I'm still getting this energy bill. And they said, well, what are your solar readouts? And I was like, I don't know. So then I called the salesperson, but by then the salesperson had gone on to some other job, so I didn't have their contact anymore. And that began the whole process of trying to get this all figured out. But I started with the Rocky Mountain Power, and, in their defense, like, hey, we are seeing that you're generating some energy. Now, whether that's what it's supposed to be, that's what you've got to figure out.
Yeah.
And it's true. I mean, that is on me.
Well, thank you, Andy. We appreciate the
You're
story.
welcome.
Yeah, KSL5 Television's Matt Gebhardt joined us earlier to talk about this legislation and what it aims to do to protect people who buy solar.
One of the biggest complaints we get is these salespeople who come there and say, here's what you need, and it will 100% offset. They look at their power bills and they say this will completely offset your power. You will not be reliant on your power company anymore. Your bills will be down to basically zero. And then the panels go up on the roof, and they're not even close to that. I mean, they're subsidizing the bill a little bit, but it's not even close to these promises. And so it has now prompted that one Utah lawmaker he's currently running a bill that would say, no, if you make promises of what it will do, you have to live up to those within 80%. You are not allowed to start charging the customer until these things are actually up and running and generating power.
Yeah, and that sounds like exactly what would have helped you.
Yeah, that sounds very familiar.
It sounded very much like that was the problem you're having. So to have that assurance that legally you'd be able to require that kind of delivery. So thanks, Andy, and best of luck. Hope you finally figure out at some point how much energy those solar panels are producing.
Thanks.
At JCW's, we think tipping might be getting a little out of hand. Like when you're asked to tip at the register before you've even been served, or when you're at the yogurt shop and find yourself serving yourself. And don't even get us started on frosted tips making a comeback. That's why at JCW's, when you pay for a 3rd-pound ranch bacon cheeseburger, that's what you pay. And no one at the register is going to stare longingly at you while you awkwardly maneuver through the tip screen for food you don't even have yet. Honestly, we're just happy to see you at any of our 5 locations in Provo, South Jordan, Lehigh, Harriman, and American Fork. So come on in and enjoy some quality time and great food with family and friends. And we promise, we won't be pushing you for a tip.
Hey, this is Chris with JCW's, and we just want to say thank you, and especially to our loyal customers. We want you to know that at JCW's, your business is all the tip we need. JCW's, quality and a lot of it.
If you've ever experienced running out of hot water before your shower was done, or hard water spots on dishes and fixtures, I've got a deal you might be interested in. What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and you probably already know that a tankless water heater and a water softener solve both issues. If you've ever thought about looking into getting a tankless water heater, here's the deal I was talking about. Through the end of February, we're including a free water softener with every new tankless water heater we install. The best part of this deal might be that you never have to worry about being the last one to the shower again, or that you don't have to waste the money keeping 40 to 50 gallons of water hot 24/7. To take advantage of this deal, call Any Hour Services before the end of February. The visit's free and there's no obligation to buy. If you decide to have us install a new tankless water heater, we'll throw in the water softener for free. That's right, a free water softener when you purchase a tankless water heater. Pick up the phone and call Any Hour Services right now for all the details. 801-443-7400. You can Google Any Hour Services. You can even schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Boy, right after the holidays, everyone needs a little cash, right?
Oh, yes.
We have great news for you. Right now, UCCU, Utah Community Credit Union, will pay you for your auto loan and credit balances. So all you have to do is just transfer your auto loan or your credit card balance to UCCU. And on top of giving you a low interest rate, which will save you money, UCCU will give you 1% cash back up to $250 on every loan you transfer.
Amanda, as soon as I heard about this, I said, I'm in this exact situation. I transferred. I actually had to have 2 loans to get my car a year ago.
Yeah.
Long story. Got it consolidated into one, and they paid me 1% back for each thing. I've got 1 payment now instead of 2. It's so much easier, and it took me maybe basically an hour. I just went straight to the website. I applied. They said, you got to send me these documents. I did, and all of a sudden, within a couple of days, I had it all set.
This is how easy they are to work with, always looking for ways to help you and your family. You can find out more on the UCCU mobile banking app or just go to uccu.com/transfer. Utah Community Credit Union. You're going to love where you bank.
Paid for by government.com. Have you heard? A recent stash of 1902 Morgan silver dollar coins has been found. These gorgeous 1902 silver dollar coins are as bright and shiny as the day they were struck, and less than 300 of these Morgan silver dollars are available. Coin experts are calling this an amazing opportunity for anyone interested in silver coins. Just call government at 1-800-806-1641, and you are guaranteed a mint condition 1902 Morgan silver dollar featuring the iconic old mint mark of the New Orleans Mint. But with limited quantity, you must call Call now. These 1902 silver coins are still in uncirculated condition. That is 122 years of history you can hold in your hand. To learn more, call 1-800-806-1641. Call now and you'll receive a free American Coin Collector's Bonus Package, a $25 value free with every order. Call 1-800-806-1641 now to secure your 1902 Morgan silver dollars before they sell out. That's 1-800-806-1641.
Before a disaster turns your family's world upside down, it's up to you to be ready. Get a kit, make a plan, be informed. Learn how at www.ready.gov. Brought to you by the Federal Emergency Management Agency and the Ad Council.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
11 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Jessica Lowell. KSL's top story this hour. The tariffs on Mexican imports threatened by President Trump are now on hold.
Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum saying after a phone call with President Trump this morning, he has agreed to suspend putting tariffs on Mexican imports to the U.S. for 1 month. This after both sides agreed that Mexico would send an additional 10,000 National Guard troops to the northern border to try and stem the flow of fentanyl into the United States. That's been the key sticking point for President Trump.
ABC's Matt Rivers in Mexico City. The stock market has been reacting sharply to the on and off again tariff talk from President Trump. DMBA certified financial planner Shane Stewart tells Utah's Morning News, we've been through these types of things before.
Not to be too reactionary to this kind of news when it comes to your investments. Your investments are usually for the long term, especially something like a 401k. It's best to ride those things out.
Stewart says it's hard to predict daily which way the market is going to go. As far as dealing with potential rise in prices from tariffs, he suggests appropriately buying in bulk the things you need. Your money at this moment still in the red, but up from earlier today. The Dow down 187 points, S&P down 55, and NASDAQ down 256. Coming up, springtime in February. KSL Weather's next. KSL News Time, 11:01.
A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
It's the Advanced Window Products President's Day sale. If the cold is seeping in through your old windows, Advanced Window Products will install state-of-the-art double-pane windows with insulated frames. Your home will take on an exciting new look, and you're going to save on your heating bill. And not for nothing, your air conditioning in summer. And right now with the President's Day sale, you save $2,500 off 10 windows or more. For 38 years, Advanced Windows has been building beautiful custom windows and frames right here in Utah. There's no middleman, so you save. So keep out the cold, cut down your energy bills, and save $2,500 with one call to Advanced Window Products. 801-850-9100. An expert comes out for a no-pressure consultation. They'll tell you about the payment plans, including no payments for 24 months. The Advanced Window Products President's Day sale. Get $2,500 off. Call 801-850-9100. That's 801-850-9100. Or just go to advancedwindows.com.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
slow it down and get it going slower.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avacincaptad pagel is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com.
Seems everything costs more these days. Gas, groceries, and when's the last time you checked your wireless bill? Yikes. When it comes to big wireless, if you're staying, you may be overpaying. Here's how to get the same fast, reliable nationwide coverage without the big wireless bill. Switch to Consumer Cellular. Plans start at just $20 a month, and that's not a short-term promo. Our U.S.-based experts will get you switched and saving in about 20 minutes. Call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com and start saving today. Plans include $5 credit for auto pay and e-billing.
Febreze. It's a classic odor tale. You fried fish for dinner, cleaned up, but the smell is still in the house. And the neighbors are coming over for game night. They're on their way. And then you spray Febreze Air Mist. Febreze Air starts working instantly to fight even your toughest odors, so you go from fish to fresh like that. Now all you have to worry about is Pam cheating at charades.
Breathe happy, Febreze, la 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 la.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Mountain America's limited time balance transfer bonus. Here's Heather Kelly.
Well, the only type of delay we're really seeing right now across the Wasatch Front is on city streets and mostly up north in Ogden. We're seeing quite a bit of delay both northbound and southbound on Washington Boulevard between 2nd Street and 7th Street. That's really the only issue we're seeing. I think that's just due to construction. No problems in the Salt Lake Valley on I-15, the east or west side belt routes, and no accidents reported anywhere. Looking for the perfect suit for that special occasion? Mr. Mac has the best suit selection for any occasion. And get winter clearance pricing today. Visit their 9 convenient locations or MrMac.com. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
Very warm weather will stick around for the next few days, and we could set some new records. We're looking at temperatures in the 50s and 60s through Friday. More rain possible on Wednesday. Right now, it is mostly cloudy with some wind and 59 degrees. I'm Jessica Lowe from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at KSLNewsRadio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Dave and Dujanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories on KSL News Radio. Dave and Dujanovic, special coverage of the top national stories.
If you're paying close attention to what the President of the United States was doing over the weekend, then you probably know that he was threatening that tariffs would be implemented against Mexico, against Canada, new tariffs against China. And then this morning, just before our show started, Dave and I got a case of whiplash because he'd backed down already on tariffs to Mexico, and we're still waiting to hear what his meeting holds with the Prime Minister of Canada.
I guess that's the art of the deal, right? Is this has been a negotiating point for President Trump for very long. And he has said, even at the beginning, tariffs are a beautiful thing. It's the most beautiful word in the dictionary. But at the same time, he's also said this is a starting point or a negotiating point. And so far, everyone he's threatened with tariffs have basically given in to all of his wants and desires.
In a few minutes, we're going to go live to Washington, D.C., where Robert Sherman is standing by live from News Nation. So I'm standing in front of the White House just a little bit ago, giving updates on what the latest is. And I'm curious to see what Canada ends up doing. Let's talk in detail about what these tariffs would do. We talked earlier to Robert Spenlove. He's a senior economist with Zions Bank, and we were talking to him, to your point, Dave, about the art of the deal and then also how it would impact Utahns and your family budget.
This is why Trump loves tariffs, because he uses them as a way to negotiate. And that he's shown that he's willing to impose dramatic tariffs on our closest trade partners unless they are willing to negotiate with him on his priorities. And so he will continue to be using this. It surprises me how quickly they came to an agreement, but I'm sure he's talking with Trudeau right now about how they can work with Canada as well.
And when we watch these countries negotiate, or maybe I guess the better way to describe it is fall in line, I think it really speaks to the power that Trump has by using tariffs as, quite frankly, as a cudgel. You know, he's able to beat these countries over the head and make sure they do what he wants them to do.
There was a little more understanding of Mexico. because of the border crisis that Trump pledged to deal with from day one, and he has. And then Mexico's president this morning agreeing to send 10,000 troops to their northern border, which is our southern border, to deal with illegal immigration. So that held off the implementation of Mexico's tariffs by 30 days. So there's been a pause for 30 days. What I was confused about was Canada. And why Canada? What did Canada do to bring on the ire of the president to where he was willing to impose a 25% tariff on Canada? Any clue?
The vast majority, and I didn't realize this until recently, the vast majority of our imports when it comes to gasoline comes from Canada. We're the number one importer of gasoline from Canada. So it doesn't come from Saudi Arabia. It doesn't come from the Middle East. It largely comes from Canada. So there are some inequities between Canada. We get the majority of our lumber from Canada. We get our gasoline. So there's a lot of heavy consumption, and we largely get it from Canada.
Well, I wondered when I was alone this weekend at home on Saturday when I heard this announcement if I was the only one in America who was concerned about my pocketbook and my budget and what this would do to impact it. New York Times reporting $830 a year for the average American household. Doesn't sound like a lot, but you pile it on top of all the inflation that we've been complaining about for the last 4 years. Who wants to keep paying more? Like, I'm not running a charity either. I got to run a household budget. And then you talk about Canada, the impact that could have on like lumber prices. I'm thinking about the housing crisis that we're already in, and is it going to drive up the price of houses even more if they're tariffing lumber as it comes across our northern border?
The long-held economic theory, the consensus among economists, is that tariffs and reducing free trade will hurt the economy. It will hurt consumers. It will cause prices to go up. Cause price shocks. It'll cause shortages in especially those products. A lot of the products that we love, like avocados from Mexico, or maple syrup, or even more important, lumber from Canada. And the Trump administration is throwing a lot of those theories into a real-world test. One of the senior Trump advisors just wrote a piece in November calling a user's guide to restructuring the global trading system. That's their goal. They want to restructure the entire global trading system, and they're saying this is necessary and it's worth it to accomplish these. And so, yes, there will be direct impacts on Utah consumers, especially for those products that we import, and there will be reciprocal impacts on the items that we export if there's those retaliatory tariffs. And so it could cause that demand to go down. But at least in the idea of the Trump administration, it's worth it to restructure the trading system.
And part of this, I think, is the American people cannot be surprised that this is happening. All along the way, when you heard on the campaign trail President Trump talking about his economic plan, it revolved around tariffs. Tariffs, tariffs, tariffs.
To me, the most beautiful word in the dictionary today is the word tariff. It's more beautiful than love. It's more beautiful than anything. It's the most beautiful word. This country can become rich with the proper use of tariffs.
So I've never been able to figure out how we were going to become rich with the proper use of tariffs, because all the reading I was doing on it is that it was going to cost me more. So I was going to have to put out more money for products. New cars were going to go up $3,000, which are already so expensive. The price of berries and avocados and prices at the grocery store, and we're already dealing with an egg shortage. And so, I spent $4 for a dozen eggs the other day at the grocery store. It's like normally those are 99 cents to $1.50. So when I looked at that, I was like, how does that work? Because if the importer is paying the tariff and then passing the cost along to the consumer, how does the country get rich if I get broker?
I was just looking at News Nation, and Robert Sherman who may be joining us a little bit in a few minutes. He put up a stat that I thought was incredible. Mexico and Canada, 75% of their exports go to the United States. So the vast majority of what they are producing and they are exporting from their country is landing here in America. So they are absolutely reliant on our American dollars to buy their goods. It's that old joke. If you owe the bank $1 million, the bank owns you. But if you owe the bank $100 billion, then you own the bank, right? What's the leverage here? And I think what we're seeing now is the United States has incredible leverage when it comes to tariffs. And when you go to the negotiating table, we are, 100 times the economy of Canada. That's an exaggeration. It's more like we are 10 times or even 15 times the economy of Canada. So when you get into a negotiation or if you get into some sort of a trade war, it's going to be very difficult to not just concede everything to the United States.
What is our beef with Canada? I keep going back to that. Like the Mexico, okay, immigration. We have been talking about that for decades. He's got into office again, and he's going to deal with it, and he's told us that. But what is our beef with Canada? Robert Sherman of News Nation, just saw you doing a live television hit with News Nation, and it looked like you were in front of the White House, Robert.
Yep, that's where we are today as all this moving and shaking is ongoing here. And a lot of diplomatic channels are still open at this point.
So tell us what the latest is with the tariffs. Last word we got earlier this morning is that the pause was in place with the tariffs in Mexico, but we weren't quite sure what he was going to do with Canada.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the big thing here is that, I think that there's been a little bit of a bad habit of lumping Mexico and Canada into the same basket and assuming that there would be uniformity. There has not been to this point. So with the conversations coming down from Claudia Sheinbaum, the president of Mexico, and President Trump, there is an agreement that appears to be in place that both sides have acknowledged to pause the tariffs for a month. Mexico will be sending troops up to the U.S.-Mexico border in order to try and stem the flow of drugs and migrants heading into the United States. But those conversations are going to remain ongoing, mainly focused on national security as well as inequities taking place in regards to trade between those two countries. So, I mean, there's still more meat on the bone there that has to be sorted out, but there is a pause there. Canada, on the other hand, appears to, at this hour, be a different story, but things move rather quickly with this White House. We know President Trump and Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau will be speaking again around 3 o'clock this afternoon. But as things stand right now, there are tariffs that are set to go into effect which will impact goods coming from Canada. Canada is prepared to respond with retaliatory tariffs as well. That's where we stand in that landscape right now. But again, more could potentially be coming today.
Robert, part of what has stood out to me is how quickly, I guess, people have left their hardline positions. We saw that from President Petro in Colombia. We've seen that from Mexico as well, where they say, we are not going to allow this. We're not going to be bullied. And then next thing you know, it's like, never mind, we're good. Thumbs up, we'll concede. I'm interested to see what Canada's reaction, because so far it seems like the leaders of these nations have largely just given in to the demands of Trump.
Yeah, and that's certainly what it appears to be, from this vantage point that we're all standing in. I mean, I think that's something that's important to look at here. I mean, look at the trade numbers between the United States, Canada, and Mexico, right? I mean, you're looking at about 75% of Mexico's exports. Where do they go? The United States. Similar story with Canada as well. They are heavily reliant on the United States market when it comes to international trade. The United States, yeah, I mean, there's a good amount of commodities that go to Mexico and go to Canada from the U.S., but you're talking like 10, 11%. I mean, it's a very, very different ballgame between these two sides. I mean, that's why it's the White House's position that they have the leverage they need in order to get what they want when it comes to these assurances on the issue of immigration. So that's the White House's perspective here. And there has been acknowledgments that, yeah, taxpayers could see some short-term pain, potentially, even longer term, if you do see these tariffs coming down to fruition. But very clearly, I mean, this is being used as a negotiating tactic by the President of the United States, who says that they have this leverage here and that they intend to use it. How it ends when all is said and done, if any bluffs are called, I think we're all going to find out rather soon.
Robert Sherman is White House correspondent with News Nation, on the phone live with us right now in front of the White House, in fact, talking about the tariffs that were supposed to go into effect Tuesday morning, tomorrow morning. It looks like 30-day pause on the tariffs in Mexico as they work out a deal to deal with the immigration at the border, at the southern border. Still wanting to, hear what happens this afternoon at that meeting that he's having with Prime Minister of Justin Trudeau of Canada, Robert. But the timing of all this has been curious to me because he drops this on Saturday. Obviously, he's foreshadowed this on the campaign trail and since taking office. But the tariffs are announced Saturday. The president and his team have the weekend to sort of see how the nation, the business owners, and the American people who voted for him as well, are reacting to it. Pretty much, for the most part, an unpopular move from what I can see from the polling. And then he's able to kind of course correct on Monday before these tariffs are actually implemented. Do you think there was any strategy, or am I just overthinking that?
No, I mean, I think that there's absolutely strategy. I mean, I would actually say that just about everything that this White House does, I mean, they do, with strategy in mind here. Because, again, I mean, the goal here isn't for these tariffs to necessarily come to fruition, right? I mean, the goal is for, any trade inequities to be resolved between the different countries and for more steps on immigration to be had. That is the wave of magic wand solution that the White House is looking for here. And they believe that they're in a position of leverage in order to get that. I mean, again, where all of this ends, I mean, I think it's interesting that you've seen different reactions from both countries. Whereas on the one hand, I mean, Mexico is saying is that we're ready to play ball on the issue of immigration, whereas you just had a premier in Ottawa today for Canada saying that, we're not going to do any more business, or take up any of these contracts with American companies. We're going to end our deal with Starlink. We're prepared to win this trade war. It has been two different reactions that you've seen coming from the South and coming from the North.
I guess it makes a lot of sense where some of the hardball play would come in to the negotiations with Mexico. But I think, Debbie, you asked the best question right off the top. What's the beef with Canada?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting question here. And how much of it is posturing? How much of it is that you're looking at an outgoing prime minister who has received calls, from inside his own country, thinking that he's not strong enough to stand up to President Trump? I mean, who knows? I mean, there's a lot of this that goes on behind the scenes, but we do have a phone call coming up at 3:00 here where we could get a little bit more movement on this, or maybe it's a doubling down for both sides. What I would say is that, I mean, you alluded to this, things have been moving rather quickly here in just the couple of weeks that this administration's been on the job.
Robert Sherman, thank you so much for joining us from the White House, just outside the White House, News Nation's Washington correspondent. Thanks, Robert.
Yeah. What were you thinking this weekend when you heard the tariffs were announced?
We'll see how long this lasts.
Yeah.
Yeah. We just have seen such an about face so quickly early on when Trump starts imposing these tariffs that I think these countries go into full panic mode. To give you an idea, the size of Canada's entire GDP, it would rank behind Texas, California, and New York. They would be the fourth largest state if you take Canada's entire GDP. So to say that America has the negotiating power is such an understatement. Our economy and Canada's reliance on exporting directly to the United States, you can see all the negotiating power is with Trump. Sure, you can maybe take some liquor bottles off your store cabinets in Ottawa, but that's more symbolic than anything else. Canada cannot survive without exports to the United States. No one could. 75% of their exports come to the United States.
I know they brought up that they wanted to stop the flow of fentanyl in the United States. Illicit fentanyl makes sense. We don't want those drugs pouring into America. But what often doesn't get addressed is Americans are buying these drugs at the street level, right? And they're willing to potentially die because these can be laced with too much fentanyl, which can kill them like that. So a lot of Americans going to great lengths to purchase these drugs. What do we do about that part of this equation? And if we stop the flow at the border and potentially borders, although I think Canada is, largely not largely responsible for this at all. It's probably more of a southern border issue than a northern border issue. Does that just push the making of the product into America? I'll give you an example. Back in the 90s, I think it was the 90s, that Utah was number one per capita with meth labs, with methamphetamine drug labs in homes. Okay, these are unsupervised labs by cooks that are in the middle of conducting, an illicit business in the basement, sometimes of their parents' home. And these homes would blow up or catch fire because they got the concoction all wrong. So what I see potentially happening, and we want to stop the flow, but I think at the same time we have to be able to address the crisis on the home front too, and that is that people are willing to make this stuff in their basements, distribute the product all over the United States from their home state in America, we saw it in Conwood Heights with the production of fentanyl. Right? A few years ago, it was 5 or 6 years ago, a man was arrested for manufacturing fentanyl pills illegally in the basement of his home in Conwood Heights and distributing them all over the United States. So that part of the equation needs to be addressed as well.
Yeah, and we haven't figured out the war on drugs. We haven't figured out how to battle that or how to win it. And we've been trying this for decades, since the 70s, and we don't have a good answer to it.
The newest part of your morning, and still so familiar.
When you wake up and listen to a radio show, it's like you're a part of a family. You're listening in on people you know, and it's magnificent that Andy Farnsworth is sitting in the chair because he's someone we know.
Utah's Morning News. Andy Farnsworth joins Amanda Dixon to bring you important news in the car. 5 to 9 on KSL News Radio.
There she is, founder and CEO. High five.
Dave can't stop celebrating with every business owner in town.
All right, Baker Man, high five.
He's sharing the excitement of big savings with the Comcast Business 5-year price lock guarantee.
Woo, up top, bike shop.
Yeah. It's 5 years of gig speed internet.
Quick, high five.
5 years of advanced security.
5 years.
And 5 years of a great rate that won't change.
Yeah, law partners. Chamberlain, Messethorpe, Dubois.
All from the company with 99.9% network reliability. Switch today and get the 5-year price lock guarantee.
5 years.
It's back, but only for a limited time.
Woo.
Powering 5 years of savings, powering possibilities. Comcast Business.
Can't forget you, voiceover guy.
Ah, thanks, Dave.
High five.
Ends 3/9/25. Guaranteed rate applies to monthly service charge for new customers on qualifying internet bundle, excluding taxes and fees. Other restrictions apply.
Attention homeowners, it's Freeburary at Yes Air Conditioning, Heating, Plumbing, and Electric. Get a free furnace and smart thermostat with the purchase of select new cooling systems. That's right, purchase a new system from the pros at Yes and get a furnace and smart thermostat absolutely free. We offer expert technicians, flexible payment options, and our exceptional service guarantee, ensuring your peace of mind. Request your complimentary consultation from Yes today. Call now or visit theyesmancan.com for details, terms, and conditions.
Attention home buyers, want to save hundreds on your mortgage payment or buy a bigger, nicer home? Visit SaveRight.com. This is Rod with the SaveRight team at Realty Path. SaveRight, our name says it all. SaveRight real estate clients often save $300 to $600 a month on their mortgage. Life of loan savings can be over $300,000. SaveRight clients qualify for and buy bigger, nicer homes. Interest rates are around 7%. SaveRight clients can get fixed rates in the 5s. Our affiliate lender makes it all possible. You can even start with a rate in the 2s. If you're buying or selling a home in Utah, save a ton of money. Hire the SaveRight team of realtors. Visit SaveRight.com for more information.
Basketball season is back. With Jazz Plus, you can watch games live from your TV, computer, tablet, or phone. So don't miss any of the action when you're at home or away. Can't get enough of your favorite team? Go behind the scenes and see what the team is up to on and off the court. With flexible plans, you can choose what works for you. From full season to monthly, or just pick a single game you want to watch. Sign up and subscribe today at UtahJazzPlus.com.
At Fisher Investments, we may seem like other money managers, but we're different.
What makes you so different than the rest of us?
We ensure clients receive unparalleled service at every step of the relationship.
Tell me more.
Our investment counselors focus on service over sales, prioritizing clients' needs.
How do you make money?
We don't sell any commission-based products. We have a simple management fee based on the value of our client's portfolio. So we do better when our clients do better.
What about client portfolios?
We get to know each client, their finances, family, health, lifestyle, and more, and then we tailor a portfolio based on their specific goals and needs.
Your clients really come first then, huh?
Yes, we make them a top priority. Our goal is helping them achieve a comfortable retirement.
Wow, maybe we are different.
At Fisher Investments, we're clearly different. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com.
Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
11:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Claire Scott. KSL's top story this hour. President Trump has agreed to pause tariffs on Mexico as part of a deal to reinforce the border with members of Mexico's National Guard. ABC's Matt Rivers reports from Mexico City.
If all of this sounds a bit familiar, it's because it's exactly what happened the last time President Trump threatened tariffs against Mexico back in 2019 when President López Obrador was in charge here in Mexico. Both sides were concerned about the threat of tariffs. President Trump threatens. Mexico responds by reinforcing the northern border with National Guard troops. And here we are, one administration later, doing the exact same thing.
The tariffs against Canada and China are still scheduled to begin tomorrow. The storm over the weekend didn't bring as much snow as expected, but in the mountains up north, avalanche danger remains high. Utah Avalanche Center forecaster Craig Gordon says anyone looking to get in the backcountry should come prepared.
Be armed with the latest avalanche forecast for the zone that you plan to travel in, and that also means being prepared by avalanche avoidance and being prepared for your own self-rescue.
Logan currently has high avalanche danger in some areas, and Salt Lake Mountains are rated considerable. Your money at this moment, the Dow is down 91 points, the S&P down 42. And coming up, record-breaking heat today. KSL Weather's next. KSL News Time, 11:31.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
It's a new year, and now that it's February, you can start looking at maybe what am I going to do for my significant other for Valentine's? Well, maybe you both get on a program. If you've been thinking about losing some weight, maybe you can do that together. It's one of those things that can be difficult, is if you make that decision to lose some weight, do you know how? Can you stick to the program? Well, with Salt Lake City Fat Loss, we've seen some incredible stories come out, people losing up to a pound of fat per day. In fact, I lost 57 pounds in 60 days with Salt Lake City Fat Loss. That was during the reduction phase, which is 60 days. You're just on a pretty restrictive diet. But I will tell you this, I wasn't starving. That was my biggest concern. I thought I was going to be starving, but I felt great. I was losing crazy amounts of weight. So if you're interested, you're going to get an extra $200 off. It's the Valentine's deal that they've got going right now. So go ahead and reach out to Salt Lake City Fat Loss by going to slcfatloss.com. Again, you're going to get an extra $200 off the program right now in February. Go ahead and reach out and schedule a free consultation at slcfatloss.com.
Getting help with electrical repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's limited time balance transfer bonus. Here's Ricky Meese.
Nice and quiet on all the Valley freeways and our main secondary. Salt Lake City PD wrapping up a crash at 2000 North Warm Springs Road. Common Spirit hospitals, clinics, and caregivers, all connected to advanced health care in Colorado, Kansas, and Utah. Healthcare with human kindness is here. Hello, human kindness. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
A high of 65 today and 66 tomorrow, both expected to break heat records. After that, we see chances of a storm on Wednesday that will drop temperatures back into the 50s. Right now it is 61 and mostly cloudy and windy. I'm Claire Scott from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Dave and Dujanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories on KSL News Radio.
If you are sick, you are not alone. We are in the middle of what health officials are calling a quad-demic.
I was going through a little bit of a thing. I thought my voice had just turned into Barry White for like eternity. Like that's how long this quad-demic was lasting in my throat. I swear, I have no idea what I had, but my goodness, it was a deep-throated, phlegmy, awful.
Ew.
You're not alone, folks. I know it sounds gross, but listen, you've been there as well.
Yep.
And I love Lois Collins joins us right now from the Deseret News. I hadn't heard the term quad-demic, but I think that is so descriptive. There's a bunch of viruses going around.
And you've
right
been
now.
writing about this.
I have. It's catchy, by the way. So the 4 viruses right now that are plaguing people, 3 of them respiratory, 1 of them more gastric. Influenza, COVID-19, RSV, and then the gastric one is norovirus. And they're all pretty disgusting. And let's not forget that it's also cold season all the time.
So that adds a 5th layer.
Yeah, but it's not as catchy.
Yeah.
I mean, what are you going to call it? I don't know.
So mine started on January 9th, and here we are, February 3rd, and I woke up this morning having a hard time getting my voice going. Yesterday morning, I woke up without a voice, although I was able to get it back with some, like a warm glass of a cup of tea. This has been a hanger-oner. And I have not felt well. I'm not expecting you to diagnose me, but I know it's not COVID.
Thanks for that.
Yeah, I know it's not COVID because I was able to test for that. But this has been, I'm closing in on 4 weeks of just not feeling well. And this is the case for a lot of people.
Have you thought about going to see somebody about it? Because there's a thought.
I have my COVID vax and I have my flu vaccine, so I'm thinking it's just a really bad head cold, but maybe it's RSV.
The thing that you have to think about is you could also have an off strain of the flu.
Oh, okay.
People don't realize that it's a best guess, and it does reduce your chances of severe symptoms. So you could be up and walking and contemplating not going to a doctor, but they guess what strains are circulating or will be circulating, and it's formulated for that. And so while it helps you some, if they miss the guess, if it's if there's a strain that wasn't included, then you could still have some symptoms. So because you're vaccinated, you can't say for sure it's not flu.
That's true.
I think one of the downsides to this is if you do get sick, your immune system gets depressed, which leaves you more susceptible to catching one of the other 3 if you do catch something.
No, it's true. And there are a lot of people who literally are experiencing like a duodemic in the middle of the quad-demic. So it's true that can happen.
So you can have 2 of these at once.
No, you can have 2 of anything at once, actually, when you've got viruses circulating. And what you really hope is that if you're going to have respiratory, at least this is what I hope, if you're going to have respiratory, that they're both respiratory. Because nobody wants to deal with gastric and respiratory at the same time.
Can you walk us through the symptoms of RSV? I had a child who had it when he was an infant, my son, and it was scary. And we ended up getting him to the hospital, getting him checked. He has RSV, so they said keep him away from anybody. I believe it was for 3 months. He was born, he's a September baby, end of September, so he was kind of born right into sadly, the sweet spot of all of these different, viruses kind of spinning up as we got into late October, November, December. But for adults, is it kind of the same?
Similar. So I'm a great speller and not a doctor.
Yes,
so everybody bear that in mind.
Yes.
I'm a really good speller, though. But the thing that makes this so tricky with the 3 respiratory is that there are so many overlapping and similar symptoms. So you may not be able to sort it out. Doctors do a much better job of sorting out what you have. But the respiratory symptoms are quite similar. When you have respiratory symptoms, you have trouble breathing, you may be coughing, you may be sneezing, pounding headaches, stuffed sinuses, all of those delightful things. And those are found in all of these conditions, except for the norovirus. So that's the trick there. And if you're not terribly sick, you can treat the symptoms and kind of write it out. But there are people for whom any of these are very dangerous. RSV is particularly dangerous for young children and the elderly. Flu is particularly dangerous for, well, actually those two, all of them, none of these are good for those 2 groups. COVID is dangerous in some cases for pregnant women. COVID is also dangerous for the elderly. If you're immune compromised, you probably need to get some help with symptoms because they can turn into something else. And you got to remember that all of the respiratory stuff can also turn into something else like pneumonia. And so you need to really pay attention to how you're feeling, and you need to get help if you need it.
You're looking at me.
Yeah, I'm staring right at you. Eye to eye.
Go to the doctor,
yes,
Deb.
That's so true.
I think people, when we were going through the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, we did often look at the death totals across the country, but I think it would surprise people how many people die every single year from the flu.
It's somewhere around 36 to 40,000 is not out of range. Right now, they're saying that we have 9 million people sick with flu. We have 110,000 people who've been hospitalized, and 4,700 have died. So that's a pretty low count compared to what it has been some years. Part of it is flu strain, part of it's the population it hits. A lot of it has to do with the fact that we hated masking, we hated social distancing, we probably even hated washing our hands as often as we did during COVID, but we formed some good habits. And so you're more apt to see people on planes right now during the quad-demic who are wearing masks or who are taking some sort of precaution. We know what to do. We just don't do it.
Lois Collins with the Deseret News talking to us about the quad-demic. She's written about it. You can read more at Deseret.com. I was going to say I was out and about last week, and I saw a lot of people are masking up. And there's no mask requirements, but you see a lot of people just masking up on their own.
The truth of the matter is that during COVID, as much as we hated all of those precautions, flu went down, RSV went down, even colds went down. And so there's a certain logic to taking some sort of step to protect yourself when things are floating around.
Remind us one more time, what are the 4 things in the quad-demic?
Okay, so norovirus, by the way, that one's really gross and very serious in some cases, and you have to watch for dehydration. That's the one that is not respiratory, that you've got influenza, COVID-19, and RSV.
How much longer? Do you have any idea of the projection of how long this will go on? Not to put you on the spot. But
I haven't seen anything. That doesn't mean that people who really are doctors don't know this question.
Yeah. But it goes away when it goes away, I guess.
Yep.
Yeah. Lois, thank you so much. Always appreciate you joining us. Great information. Makes me feel like I'm not alone, although I know family members that I haven't even seen, like I haven't been in contact with, are telling me that they're not feeling well. So this is going around and people are catching it from all different angles.
And not that this is going to make you feel any better, but the Mayo Clinic, you're like, how long does this last? Well, flu season, according to the Mayo Clinic, October to May. So the vast majority of the year is what we call flu season. Hey, you're welcome. There you go. To bring a little light and hope to your life. Lois Collins, thank you so much. You always write so many fascinating things, but there we are. The quad-demic. You've got RSV, COVID-19, the flu, and then norovirus. They're all going on right now. Hopefully you don't have all 4, but you might have a couple.
Straight ahead, we're going to go back to Utah's Capitol Hill to check in on legislation that would ban cell phones from public classrooms, from schools, at least during class time. And we're going to reveal to you a new study that shows you how much time, it tells us how much time kids actually spend on their cell phones during school hours. All right, stay tuned, parents. It's shocking. That's next.
This is Derek Miller speaking on business. The Young Automotive Group is rich with history. What started as a single dealership in 1924 in Morgan, Utah, has grown into one of Utah's and Idaho's most trusted automotive groups. President Spencer Young Jr. joins us with more.
For 100 years, the Young Automotive Group has been dedicated to delivering an exceptional customer experience. It's a commitment we've had since my great-grandfather, Selden Jack Olson, founded our business, and it's been instilled in all of our locations throughout Utah, Idaho, and Montana. Throughout 2024, we celebrated 100 years in business. It's an achievement we're incredibly proud of, and we know that it's been attained because we prioritized one thing: value. We strive to provide value both in and outside of the showroom. Our employees operate on a series of principles that work to ensure you're provided with a quality deal and unmatched customer service. In addition, our dealerships strive to make an impact in their area. Working with our charitable nonprofit, the Young Caring for Our Young Foundation, we've provided communities with nearly $7 million and new clothing to over 6,000 children in need through our revolutionary Kind Fund program. Our team at the Young Automotive Group is excited for the road ahead, and we can't wait to help you think young.
With over 30 automotive and power sports operations across Utah, Idaho, and Montana, the Young Automotive Group continues to evolve and plans to celebrate another monumental year in 2025. For more information, visit youngautomotive.com. I'm Derek Miller with the Salt Lake Chamber, speaking on business.
You know that feeling? The weather starts getting colder, so you go down to check out the furnace and you look around and think, what am I even looking at? Because you don't know how these things work with all the lights and wires and pipey things. And then you think, I bet those technicians at Whipple went to school for this. Shouldn't they be here looking at my furnace? Whipple that away. Knowing what to look for on your furnace tune-up is my job. Make your problem my problem. Whipple Service Champions.
Visit whipplethataway.com for our current special offers.
Dave and Dujanovic.
No cheating. I want you to guess, Dave. How much time do you think students spend on average on their smartphones during school hours? Just throw out a number.
Assuming they're in school for 7 hours, I bet they're on at least 3 hours.
Eye on the Hill 2025. Special coverage with Dave and Dujanovic.
You get an F. You're wrong.
Too high?
Way too high. Thankfully.
Oh, good.
You're off
I have
base,
very little faith in my kids, I guess.
One more guess, and then I'm going to give you the actual amount of time.
Well, you said way too high, so I'll drop it all the way to an hour. An hour on their phones during the school.
Too low. According to study finds, kids spend an average of 92 minutes on smartphones during school hours. 92 minutes, an hour and a half. That's a long time.
That is a huge amount of time.
And you want to go on a bet. The rest of the time, the other 4.5 hours they don't spend on their cell phone is because they can't. They're either in PE, they're testing, their teacher has called them out on it and tell them to put it away. But an hour and a half a day is on a cell phone for a child. Is that what you want your child to be doing?
No, of course not. It's insane how much time they spend on their phone just in general. But when you're at school, when you have a job to do, so to speak, and they are consciously making the decision to ignore that teacher, not take that test, not read that book, and instead watch TikTok videos, yeah, that's a serious issue.
We know a Utah lawmaker, Senator Lincoln Fillmore, is spearheading a move on Capitol Hill to ban cell phones during class time throughout Utah in schools. Okay, some districts do it now. They do it on their own. They've implemented policies to keep cell phones out of the class. In some cases, it's bell to bell. You can't have your cell phone out. You can't have your smartwatch on. But this would take it out of the district's hands and move it to Capitol Hill, where lawmakers would say, hey, if they vote in favor of it, of course, there are no cell phones allowed in schools, no smartwatches during class time. And then if districts want to do a carve-out for it, maybe they want to allow it during certain times for some reason or another, districts can do that. But it would put the responsibility on lawmakers to basically cancel cell phones in our class, and it would make it uniform across the state.
Do we have any research that says what they are doing on their phones?
Yes, I'm glad you asked. And that's what I wanted to get to. It's not that they're on their phones taking tests that have been assigned or looking up, historical information about the Civil War.
When was the War of 1812?
Study finds broke it down how they're spending their 92 minutes during school hours. A big one is Instagram.
Unsurprising.
25 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, kids love their Instagram apps, right? They're also on messaging or chat apps. They spend about 20 minutes doing that. And you know what? Kids send text messages really quickly, so I think that could be literally hundreds and hundreds of texts they sent.
Here's an element of the messaging chat apps that I want to talk about just briefly, because when we think about kids texting, we often think, hey, what's up? Nothing. What's up with you? It's what is happening, and I've talked to several kids about this. They are full on cheating from class to class, from test to test on these messaging apps. I've talked to kids, and I've seen these group texts where they will have a friend group, and this is the group text, and if someone is taking a test, they just start sending information on this group chat. So cheating is absolutely rampant in schools right now, largely because of the ease of the video apps, the messaging apps that make it so easy to do.
So for parents who want to argue that their kid needs their cell phone with them at all times, just in case mom or dad needs to get a hold of them, just in case there's an emergency in the school and your child needs to get a hold of cheating. I wonder if parents think of that their child could be cheating.
I would be fascinated if parents, here's your challenge. I am a big proponent of just looking at your kids' texts. I think it's a great way to be a parent. So you go in, you look at your kids' texts, look at the group chats, look and see, are they sharing tests and quizzes and homework?
I'm not trying to give them a how-to guide, but wouldn't they just delete that?
It's a lot of work, and most parents don't do this very often.
So you don't think the kids are deleting it?
I don't think kids are going through and erasing these.
Okay.
I think you'd be surprised if you grabbed your kids' phones, pulled it up, went through some of their group chats, and started scrolling through to see how much cheating is going on. My guess is you would be astonished.
They're spending around 17 minutes on video streaming services. That number sounds a little bit low.
You think they're watching way more Netflix at school?
And also music and podcasts, less than 5 minutes? I'd be surprised if it wasn't more than that.
Oh, there's no way my son didn't have a soundtrack going through biology class 100% of the time. He's like, do you know what this biology lesson would go nicely with? A little Pearl Jam.
Like I said earlier, there's a lawmaker on Capitol Hill who's trying to push through a ban that would keep cell phones and smartwatches out of classrooms during the school hours. It's State Senator Lincoln Fillmore, and he actually joined Inside Sources right here on KSL News Radio to talk about it.
I've been working on this for most of the last year, a bill to restrict cell phone use in schools. It's just spurred on by the mental health crisis that we're seeing with the rewiring of kids' brains that cell phones have done. Socially, academically, mentally, cell phones have been really harmful. Smartphones specifically have been harmful to kids, and so we want to restrict those in schools. That language is out at Senate Bill 117. I look forward to moving that bill through the process.
So let's make the state the bad guy. If I'm the principal, or if I'm the teacher, I love this because I don't need to be the bad guy. I can just say, hey guys, this is the law. This is the state law. You are not allowed to have your phone. But then someone has to enforce it.
Yeah.
So you can pass this up on the Hill, but there's no getting around. Ultimately, it's going to fall on the teachers to crack down and ask kids to turn their phones in.
You've been a big proponent of putting this in the laps of parents, though, over time. You're like, you can do this. You can restrict. Mm-hmm. You can go on your child's phone, and you can set up parameters and boundaries. But what this study found is that parental screen time limits show minimal impact on school hour phone use. So your kids are getting around it.
They're better at this than we are. Yeah. It doesn't matter what you put in place. They're going to figure out another way or a workaround, because if they're not going to use iMessage, they're going to use the SMS, the texting, WhatsApp. There's Discord. There's 97 different ways to get around it, and they're always 10 steps ahead of us.
This is what kids do.
It doesn't surprise me that the parental screen time limits have shown minimal impact.
Think about all the things that you got around, all the rules that you got around.
Oh, yeah.
When you were a kid growing up. I mean, I didn't have a cell phone. I'm sure you didn't either when you were in school, right?
Right.
I mean, they came on the scene after we were long since out of school, probably, or at least smartphones. And think of all the workarounds you figure out, for everything. Kids are like inventive, right? If they set their mind to do something, they're going to do it. They're going to figure out a way. And we want our kids to be smart, right? We just don't want them to be smart behind our backs. But this is what's happening. And so, Utah lawmakers are taking action to deal with this. And I think it'll make, if you will, make them the bad guy. I mean, I don't necessarily think they're bad guys for doing this or, bad women for doing this. It just doesn't put it takes the responsibility away from every single school district to hold meetings and hearings and take input from parents, and some parents who aren't happy about it, and parents who want to see it. And not to say they won't still hear from parents, but it puts it square in the laps of lawmakers to do this, and then for the governor to sign the legislation.
Yeah, this was interesting. From study finds, they said that school-based interventions may be more effective than these home-based rules. Well, I guess we'll see. I don't know if it is, but I guess we'll have to see.
Maria Chaleos up next with all the day's news. Of course, weather, if you're wondering how hot and warm it's going to get today on this first Monday in February. We read earlier it's going to hit 61 degrees, but she may actually have some news that might be getting a little higher than that. And then, of course, it's supposed to drop throughout the week. So is there even any snow on the horizon? Maria up next.
If you're struggling with missing or broken teeth or painful dentures, you're not alone. Countless people face these challenges, but you don't have to suffer any longer. It's time to rediscover the confidence of a full, healthy smile with Stubbs Dental Implant Center, Utah's best of state winner. At Stubbs Dental, they understand how your missing teeth can hold you back in your career, social life, even in love. But it doesn't have to be that way. Their team of experts transforms lives with dental implants one smile at a time. Imagine what a new smile could do for you. Thousands have turned to Stubbs Dental for dental implants, gaining more than just teeth. They've regained their self-confidence. And the best part? Finding out if you're eligible for dental implants is easy. Visit StubbsDental.com. And in just 60 seconds, you could be on your way to a life-changing smile. Don't wait any longer to take the first step towards the life you deserve. Visit StubbsDental.com, StubbsDental.com today.
Hi, this is Doug Wright, and over the years, you've heard me praise the Connecticut soft water systems. You've heard that so often, you might be tempted to chuck a shoe at your radio. Well, hang on, because I've got some great news. Get this, Connecticut will pay you $50. I'm not kidding on this. They'll pay you $50 to buy a competing water softener from another dealer. Ready for the rules, though? Well, they're pretty simple. Invite Connecticut of Utah to your home for a free estimate on a Connecticut water softener. If within 60 days of hearing them out, you buy any other system from any other water softener dealer, Connecticut of Utah will fork over $50. That's how sure they are that after hearing them out, you won't settle for anything less than a Connecticut water softener. Now, this offer does expire in 30 days, so don't delay. Call Northern Utah's authorized Connecticut dealer, Connecticut Quality Water Systems of Salt Lake, 801-576-8600, or log on to softwaterutah.com. That's softwaterutah.com. Tell them Doug sent you.
It's a classic odor tale. You fried fish for dinner, cleaned up, but the smell is still in the house. And the neighbors are coming over for game night. They're on their way. And then you spray Febreze Air Mist. Febreze Air starts working instantly to fight even your toughest odors, so you go from fish to fresh like that. Now, all you have to worry about is Pam cheating at charades.
Breathe happy, Febreze, la 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 la.
Seems everything costs more these days. Gas, groceries, and when's the last time you checked your wireless bill? Yikes. When it comes to big wireless, if you're staying, you may be overpaying. Here's how to get the same fast, reliable nationwide coverage without the big wireless bill. Switch to Consumer Cellular. Plans start at just $20 a month, and that's not a short-term promo. Our US-based experts will get you switched and saving in about 20 minutes. Call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com and start saving today. Plans include $5 credit for auto pay and e-billing.
Most of us like to be out in the sun. That's why sunscreen and other safety measures are key to protecting your skin from aging and cancer. The FDA recommends using a sunscreen with an SPF of 15 or higher. Also, look for broad spectrum on the label. That means both harmful ultraviolet A and B rays are blocked. Remember, SPF plus broad spectrum equal healthy fun in the sun. Visit www.fda.gov/